All right, Terrance Roberts,
What's up, bro?
interviewed by Idi Amin for Vlad TV.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Man, it's a pleasure having you. Thanks for pulling up.
Man, I'm blessed.
Yeah,
This has been a long road to get to Vlad TV.
and we made it happen.
It takes a
man.
lot.
It ain't easy. That's what a lot of people don't realize. It ain't,
Yeah.
But let's get right into it, man.
Yeah, let's
because
do it.
your story is an epic one, and I want to help share it with the world.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So, Terrance Roberts, born 1976, Denver, Colorado. Talk about your upbringing a little bit, man. In the documentary, The Holly, which we're gonna get into, great documentary that people can go watch right now as we speak. Your father is on there pretty prominently throughout. He was a pastor. Talk about your childhood a little bit, growing up in Denver.
I'm from Northeast Denver, mainly the area of Park Hill, which is just east of Colorado Boulevard. But if you from Northeast Denver, we from all of them. You from the Five Points, Park Hill, Montbello, Green Valley Ranch, and there's even another city called Aurora, which is just outside of Denver, but we claim Aurora too. So my community, Park Hill, was mainly 100% Northeast. Park Hill was African American. Gentrification started coming later on, but in the 70s, early 80s, and 90s, it was all black. Great place to grow up till around the mid 80s. We had local gangs, the BOYZs, Brick Cities. They're more like organizations, they say, but they were young, doing their thing, thugging or whatever, but looking out for us. I played football, basketball. I played baseball. I even played soccer one year. Tried out sports. I wasn't all that good. I wasn't the worst, but I wasn't the best. You know what I mean? But when, Bloods and Crips, NWA, gangster rap, Denver's more of a West Coast style city. So when West Coast music started coming, man, we already had like Bloods and Crips. First, it was Crips that came into Northeast Denver in the 5 Points, the East Side Denver Crips. But as they started growing, we started getting Bloods, and Park Hill was pretty much in Park Hill was like whatever they are, we aren't, because there was always this community rivalry. We call it crossing the boulevard. So there's Colorado Boulevard that kind of separates what we call the East Side, which is near downtown. Park Hill is also on the East Side, but it's like its own community. So there was always this African American community rivalry, sports, local gangs that weren't murdering each other yet. But as they started cripping, eventually in the mid 80s, late 80s, early 90s, we became Bloods.
And do you think that happened? Do you think that happened after the Panthers eventually? Because it was a hub for the Panthers as well, the Holly, right?
Yes, sir.
And then, eventually they get shut down, like most of the Panther sets across the country due to COINTELPRO and the FBI and their efforts. Do you think that vacuum opened it up?
Definitely.
For the gangs.
So on a smaller spectrum, Denver is a lot like Los Angeles. And I've been coming to LA for almost 20 years, off and on. And even with the mountain landscape, it kind of looks similar except for the palm trees in Colorado. But the gang structure.
Definitely a West Coast city.
It's definitely a West Coast style city. And when we lost that type of leadership, you seen it in Denver because, you got the same type of black pride, of the same type of anger, trauma, drama. We listen to the same music, Chuck Taylor's khaki pants, lowriders, tattoos. So, it's very similar type of culture, but we glean our culture definitely off of Los Angeles. And Denver, we're proud to say that. We're proud to say, no, we've been rocking with LA since anybody else even thought about wanting to be Bloods and Crips or just that West Coast style. People in Denver really loved it, have always been coming. So when I was growing up, you asked me earlier, so my dad lived in the Bay Area growing up. My dad actually moved to Oakland. So like I visited my dad, he lived in Oakland, lived in San Francisco. He lived like right off of MacArthur, like up in the hills. So I would be out there with my dad or be in San Francisco, but he'd be out doing his thing. So I go hang out with my cousins. I'll be on MacArthur or International, it'll be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And we got fruit bags. We got, sacks, stealing fruit out of people's trees in their backyard. So I knew what it was like on the West Coast, but then being in Denver, it was very much similar. So once we lost that leadership, it definitely created a vacuum of, well, what's next? And once everybody started really getting with the thug life, with the gangsterism, when crack cocaine came, when the music came, just like everywhere else, man, Denver fell right in line with it. So like I said earlier, first the Crips came, and then they were like beating people with golf clubs. If you wasn't cripping, you was in trouble. Other neighborhoods around Park Hill started also adopting the Crip identity, but they weren't the Crips from the east side, from the 5 Points. So they were fighting, but we were becoming Bloods out of Park Hill. Now there's other Blood communities now. All of it has gotten really bigger, but mid 80s, late 80s. And I didn't even start wanting to be a Blood until like the late 80s. And I didn't officially become a Blood till 1990. And I was 14 years old. Okay. But kind of similar story. But Denver is much smaller just because it's a much smaller place and it's 1,000 miles away. But everything LA did, we try to make sure that we stay lockstep with it.
No doubt. Okay, so I noticed in watching the documentary, The Holly, there's no mention of your mother. Would you like to discuss her and why she was left out the documentary?
So, you're the first person, man, out of all these interviews to ask about my mom. So shout out to my mom, Suzanne Boy, Suzanne Roberts. But yeah, man, my mom was very influential. But, during the late 80s, or I would say early to mid 80s, my mom was in her 20s. She is a single mom. It's me. It's my little brother. I got 2 little sisters. Single mom. My dad was living in California at the time. My little brothers and sisters are from someone else. But my mom had her struggles being a single mom in Northeast Denver. It was violence. It was the whole story that has not been told out of Denver yet. But it was homicides, just whatever. We were on welfare sometimes. My mom's been a hustler. A lot of my personality, I always say I got it from my grandmother because I lived with my mom and my grandmother. But once my mom started going through her trials and tribulations, I end up gang banging. I got shot in 1993. She was, getting on her feet, and I was living with my grandmother off and on, actually, because I was really running away. I was gang banging, stealing cars, living in dope spots, different things like that. So to find some stability, I would go stay with my grandmother. But then after I got shot in my back, to heal up and to really get my body together, because I almost died, I stayed with my grandmother really after that to really heal before I ended up going to prison. But my mom, she doesn't really like to be in the media. She's a very successful realtor right now, actually in Colorado. Nice. So she's just kind of because it's a lot of energy in Denver around my name, a lot of emotion, and my mom's never really been one to talk a lot about this kind of stuff. So she's just been playing the background with all of this stuff. But man, I love my mom, and shout out to her.
That's what's up. Yeah.
So
I watching the documentary twice, actually, I just noticed that. You also said you never wanted to be a gangster. It just unfolded that way. What did you mean when you said that? How does it just unfold that way? Was you a product of your environment? It was just doing what everybody else was doing?
I mean, definitely that. So, like now I'm going to say, like now it's a lot of Bloods. New York's full of Bloods. I was just in New York.
I was going to ask you, is it more Bloods now in Denver than it is?
It's more Bloods everywhere. Yeah. Because back in the day, LA was, how it looked in LA was how it looked in Denver. We were probably outnumbered maybe 5-1. I don't even know. Something to 1. It was a lot of Crips to 1 Blood. Pick 3, 4, 5 to 1. It depends on the day where you were. But nah, man, it was like, Cripping was a movement. And, a lot of Los Angeles Crips moved to Denver, and a lot of Denver Crips were dealing with LA, man. Those guys.
Yeah, Cube talks about it in My Summer Vacation. He put Denver on the map because a lot of the rest of the country didn't really know it was popping like that in Denver. And then, Cube put that record out, and he big.
Quick.
Yeah, Quick as well.
I mean, it's been some incidents in Denver. Schoolboy Q's crew got shot up with an AK. Wow. Leaving Red Rocks. There's been a lot of incidents in Denver around it, but it doesn't get that type of media attention. But man, it's been Bloods and Crips in Denver for a long time. So when they really started cripping, I'm from Park Hill. So Park Hill is, you cross that boulevard, it's a totally different, it's tribal. Even before Bloods and Crips, it was tribal, just not with all the homicides. So when they started cripping, I wasn't a Blood yet. Other older guys, they were Bloods. And we were looking up to them because they were like, yo, because man, when we were young, when we would go to parties and different things, if you were from Park Hill, it'd be dudes who weren't even Crips yet. But if you were from Park Hill, they wanted to be Crips, or they sympathized, or they were just from over there, and they'll beat you. You might even get killed. Anything could happen. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. It just depends on who was there. So it got to the point to where in Park Hill, we couldn't go west, crossing the boulevard. That was definitely a no-no. We went into Aurora, which is on the back end, that other city I told you. That was all more Los Angeles Crips, and they weren't getting along with the Denver Crips. But it was a lot of rolling 60s, A-trays, a lot of Denver Crips, which is actually the east side, the guys who, they said killed the Denver Bronco, burnt down the Holly. They were really deep. It was actually thousands of them. And then there was another community, Montbello. They were Cripping at the time. So we were just kind of in this box in the middle of surrounded by all these Crip gangs. So even if you weren't a Blood yet, you definitely sympathize with those who were Bloods. And at that time, they were our heroes because, they wearing red chucks. They cherry flagging, they banging. But it was so many Crips just to see these few Bloods. It was kind of like for all of us, like, man, we got to help out however we can. Even if you weren't banging,
right?
You might as well have been a Blood if you were from Park Hill back in the late 80s, early 90s.
All right. And so I'm going to say a name for you, and when you hear it, you tell me what it means to you and how it makes you feel.
Okay.
CK Showbiz.
That's a piece of me. It's still... So when I talk about these names and I talk about... it's a character, too. It's like, man, as much as it is a piece of me, but a lot of that is what you create for yourself, too. If you notice, some people's nicknames is because of the character or the spirit that they have. And, some of my homegirls actually named me that just because back then, man, I was
going to ask you, how'd you get the name?
Because so back in the day when we really weren't even really banging that hard, but we were Bloods. I hadn't got put on yet, but we from Park Hill. So we started stealing caravans, and now we were stealing cars back when you had to break the steering column all the way to the left. You had to break it all the way to the right. Then you have to pop the thing and pop the little C off and pull it back. We're talking about old school stealing cars. I don't know how to steal a car now, but that's how you stole them back in the day. So we were stealing caravans, just doing dirt, doing little stupid stuff, spray painting walls. And we had a group of homegirls, and they were better at stealing cars than the boys were. And we were trying to get their cars, and they'd be like, man, get out of here, go get your own cars. And they had cars lined up, but we had stolen cars all over the place, man. Colorado right now is like the stolen car capital of the United States. You think it'd be New Jersey Drive, but that's kind of how it is in Denver right now. Mm-hmm. But we were stealing cars, and I was always trying to show out how down I was for the hood and all this. And, the Bloods was tripping, because one thing about the Bloods back then, if you wasn't a real Blood, they'll take off on you too. You couldn't go where the Crips was, and the real Bloods would beat you up too. So I'm trying to exert myself and show. So every time I seen somebody who wasn't supposed to be from over there or whatever, I was always arguing with them, sweating them, where you from, banging on them, or getting banged on, getting beat up. And some of my homegirls actually said it was always some action or drama every time I pulled up. So they started calling me Show Business. It started being that. Then after a while, which is like everybody's like, we're Showbiz. And at first I did not like the name, but it just stuck, it was just, I wasn't against it either. It's just like, hey, it is what it is. And that became my name, CK Showbiz.
Yeah. And to the point where you were known for, riding around the hood with a Mac 11. That was one of the things your dad even talked about in the documentary during this time period. Okay, so this is the early 1990s. Obviously, there's a lot going on in America, most specifically Los Angeles, California, with the Rodney King verdict, which led to Los Angeles gangs taking on a truce. Did Denver mimic that and do the same thing?
It did.
How solid was that truce? It was very solid in LA for a minute. How solid was it in Denver?
It was very solid because, like I said earlier, whatever LA does, Denver has been very careful to say, man, if we're going to claim,
right,
if we're going to be cripping and being damoos, then we're going to do it how it comes from the land. So people are very, very much so conscious of that. So when they said we're peacing, it's 92. The OGs in Denver who have been coming back and forth to Los Angeles and LA, Bloods and Crips were living in Denver heavy. We tried it. I mean, but man, that early '90s generation, we just started banging. So I've done work in Watts, man, with the shout out to Killer Sherrills, Daoud Sherrills, Jordan Downs, Haciendas, Nickerson Gardens, all of them projects, Imperial Courts, man. I've been in all of those projects in Watts, and just learning how they did it, man. And it lasted over a decade, like 12 years in Watts. So it didn't last that long in Denver because, just as much as LA is much more advanced in gangbanging with Bloods and Crips in Denver, LA is also much more advanced in the peace movement too. So it tried to work for a while in '92, but you had a bunch of, you had thousands of young Crips, and I'm gonna say at that time hundreds of young Bloods coming up who the OGs tried it, but it didn't last that long in Denver, man. It was too many people trying to get their bones and trying to make a name for themselves. But we tried it though. Taking cue from Los Angeles, it just didn't last that long. Summer of Violence was the next year in Denver, actually.
And so the next year is you literally almost get killed.
Yeah, I got shot in my back. It broke my pelvic bone, ruptured my spleen, punctured my upper and my lower intestines. So not only I got 3 bullet fragments in my back, and I have a huge scar from a couple of surgeries now I've had from my abdomen up to my chest. So it got my back and it got my front. So then after that, I was healing up because I had physical therapy. I was getting physical therapy, but I'm gang banging. I'm smoking weed. I'm banging. We pistol toed. I'm selling dope. I got big old staples in my stomach. They getting infected. It was all kind of mess. I'm fighting. My hands were busted up, face busted up, but I'm brand new cherry chucks, khakis, and I got shot again in my arm after that. Then after I got shot again, I ended up getting locked up and going to Canyon City. And that kind of put the end to, not really the end of that, because I was going back and forth to prison. I'd do like 3 years, get out for a few months, go back for some years. So I ended up doing almost 11 years total. But my last stint in prison was when I was just like, I'm good on this. I was looking at habitual criminal. So all throughout prison, after I got shot, I was in prison healing up from getting shot. Because the arm shot didn't really affect me too much. It was just more of a flesh wound. But I'm still hurt from getting shot in my back, man. I still have issues, and I'm 46. It still affects me. Really cold days in Colorado. If I bend over wrong and pinch a nerve, I'm walking like a little old man. I have my days. I've had extra surgeries from scar tissue wrapping around my intestines. It's called a bowel obstruction. I almost died in prison from a bowel obstruction. When I had my surgery from my bowel obstruction in prison, it was like I got shot all over again. It was worse waking up in the hospital from that surgery from when I first got shot. But then when I went back to prison from my last stint, that's when I really seen that special from Martin Luther King on PBS. I was watching PBS and I heard that speech, "I've been to the mountaintop." And I was just like, all this energy I'm putting into being a Damu, all this fist fighting and getting shot and all this loading guns. Man, we load guns in my grandma's house until we had blisters on our knuckles, But
what about that speech? Why was it the moment where you was at, or was it actually something he was saying? Because let's be real about it. Martin Luther King is super commercialized at this point. You know what I mean?
At this point.
Yeah. And so this is the 90s. He was pretty commercialized at that point too. Malcolm X kind of had, stole the spotlight for a little bit with the movie and everything. Yeah. But we've heard these speeches, a lot of them before. What about that speech did it for you?
So I'm going to say this right now. I feel like I'm more Malcolm than Martin once I started learning about, but I didn't know about revolutionary activism. I didn't really know about the Panthers.
Okay.
My dad ran with the Panthers. He was a Panther. If you watch the movie Panther, there's a shootout with the Denver Panthers. Denver got history, man, a lot of history around all that stuff. And what got me on that speech, it was this one thing he said at the very end. He said, when you get to the mountaintop, he predicted his own death. Then they said he died the next day. I was like, come on now, man. Like, that's too prophetic. I was like, no. So I started research. I looked into that, and I was still a Blood. I was still, I'm still with whatever. If you disrespect or whatever, we gotta handle that. But that's what really started making me really think about, like, you know what, man. And I found out he was only 39. I thought Martin Luther King was 59 or 69.
Yeah, we all did growing up.
I was like
They just seem
39.
way older.
I'm 46 right now. I'm like 39. So that intrigued me, but not him saying that when you get to the mountaintop, like I won't be there. Just like I said in the doc, I was like, nah. I was like, he couldn't have died the very next day. Who predicts their own death the day before they die, right? But that's what happened. You know, I heard his mom got killed. And it took me like a little bit later on to find out how his mom got killed. She got killed actually by a brother who said he was a Hebrew Israelite, and he got real obsessed with the Bible and different things like that. And that's who killed Martin Luther King's mother. But I heard his mom got assassinated after he got assassinated. I had never heard these things. You know, there's probably people about to watch the show who never knew his mom got murdered. But so that's what got me intrigued with revolutionary activism and just really wanted to do it differently. And then the more I started reading about him, and then I started reading about Malcolm X, because what comes after Martin Luther King is Malcolm X.
Malik Shabazz, yep.
Yeah. So, and then after reading about Malcolm X, that's what really got me like, man, if Detroit Red can do it, Showbiz can do it.
Right.
You know, and
Malcolm's
my
journey
mind
was
started
similar.
changing. My heart really started changing, man. And I just want to be a revolutionary. That's all I want to do.
You said the same way you fell in love with gangster rap and wanting to be a Blood in 89 and 90. You was locked in your cell and you fell in love with the Bible.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I don't go to church every Sunday. I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in Jesus, man. I don't believe in being religious. But yeah, I believe in Jesus, Yahweh, whatever you want to call him. I don't trip off of names, but I got it. I fell in love with reading the stories. And I tell people, even if Jesus is fake, I don't even if he's fake, he's realer than some of the people y'all be out here representing. So I'd rather represent fake Jesus than real so-and-so, right? But it got beyond just reading the Bible, man. Like I said, I fell in love with revolutionary figures, with the idea of it, you know, and that's what really captured my heart. Was reading about Martin Luther King, reading about Malcolm X, you know, reading Soul on Ice, like I said, reading about Eldridge Cleaver and reading about, you know, Fred Hampton and just all these different brothers and Assata Shakur and just all these different people, you know, and Tupac Shakur and just those types of people. I was like, man, if I can't go out like this, that's how I started feeling. Because once I started feeling like something's the right way, that might be my blessing and my curse. Once I get it locked in my mind, this is it. It's whatever happens. It's all up from there. You know what I mean?
So you get out of jail and now you literally are a man on a mission. You know what I mean? What was your first steps getting out of jail? Did you go directly into trying to change your community and, you know, right some of the wrongs, or did it take you a minute to, you know, kind of leave the streets all the way alone?
No, man, because I left the streets alone in the penitentiary. And so when I said I wasn't banging, I never debriefed, because Denver, Colorado's prison system is not set up like California's. Like if you stop banging, you got to go debrief and snitch on everybody and go to a S&Y yard. Colorado, there's no prison system probably structured as seriously and as violently like California's. And I know that because I was a Damu for many years. I've been living under a West Coast gang system for most of my whole life now. But Colorado's system is not structured to where if you leave the gang, you got to go debrief, and there is no S&Y yards. I think all of us are S&Y yard now, but that's a whole nother topic. But anyways, I changed my life in the county jail. So when I got to the pen, everybody was like, "Oh, show business," and some of the Dominos and Crips couldn't believe it, because all they knew of me was just me gang banging, just that energy, just that murder mug. I had that 1,000-yard stare. I was really into being the blood, man. That's what I believed in. I believed in Park Hill, the whole spill of being the Damu, the brotherly love, all of it. And when I was up there, man, I was trying my best. I'm just a humble dude, man. I'm just letting my inner in the penitentiary. That was my own challenge, to just walk the yard, because all my other years in prison, and I was at the top of the food chain when it comes for Colorado blood, and not LA. I'm not from Los Angeles, but for Colorado, Showbiz was the guy. You know what I'm saying? And I challenged myself, man. I'm not checking in. I'm gonna go to the yard and whatever it do, it just does, man. Nobody ever laid a finger on me. Once the Damus had a meeting about me, one of my other partners, because we all grew up together, man, being Bloods together through juvenile when we were outnumbered. And now we weren't so outnumbered, so we went through a lot being Bloods. And when the guys tipped me off, like, hey, the homies they politicking on you, they're gonna have a B meeting on the yard, and you the topic. You know what I mean? And you fool, bro. If the right person smack his lips or say, I ain't feeling that, you gonna get smashed on, bro. And they'll get at you. They serious about Bloods and Crips in Colorado. I went to the meeting and I wasn't trying to be bravado or tough. I'm not the toughest guy, but I knew all these guys and I just pretty much told them, man, I've never debriefed. There's no smut on my name. I remember when some of y'all was scared to wear red, because that was a thing too. Crips wasn't playing. They'd come through there and shoot you. They would jump on you. You know what I mean? It was a daily thing. It might be 4-5 times a day. So back then, and they were just listening. I was like, man, if y'all do feel a certain way about me not banging, I don't think none of y'all should do nothing to me if y'all really cared about me being a Blood. But if somebody wants to hurt me, like, at least let me get a one-on-one. Nobody took the fade. Nobody pressed me or nothing. And I was just going to church, bro, and hanging out with Christians and Messianic Jews and just people like that. You know what I mean? Just people who I'm studying the Old Testament, the New Testament. I'm hanging out with my Muslim partners. We arguing about the Quran and the Bible. They teaching me the Quran. And that was my battle, that was my step to learning. It started with religion and having those conversations and listening to Muslim brothers too. Like, I look up to a lot of Muslim brothers too, man, because I said I don't do my work based on so much religion. I do my work based on we God's people without the religion. You know what I mean? So I fell in love with the revolutionary energy of it. And the Damus left me alone. One time the Muslim brothers even wanted to jump on me, and the Bloods were acting like they was gonna defend me. And I defused that and said, I don't need y'all brothers to, just my thing. I'm not banging no more. And that's when they really took me serious, because the Muslims, we had got into like an argument. One young Muslim brother really took it very serious. He was coming at me with stuff, and I said something that he didn't agree with. And I can't even remember what it was. But it was like a group of Muslim brothers who wanted to get at me, and the Bloods was like, oh, you ain't gonna get showbiz. And I had to go to the Bloods and say, listen, man, I'm serious. I don't need y'all brothers I don't need that, man. Like, cause one thing about that spirit, if the Damus give you some lotion when you get there, you owe something. You gotta, when the doors pop, you better go punch somebody or something. You get an apple, somebody had to bring that apple from the kitchen. You indebted to the cause. So I was just like, and after that, man, the Bloods really took me serious, and they really respected me after that, man. I got baptized in jail. We had over 250 people. They moved me from the whole prison. I stopped a riot in that jail. I got a lot of respect from Bloods and Crips, from the Jewish community, from the Muslim community. They all came to my baptism. The Latino gangs came. It was love, man. So that changed my heart.
And you start your nonprofit, and is that where the Prodigal Son, that title for the initiative, is that where it came from? The baptism, some of the religious information you was getting while you were locked up?
Yeah, from the story of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Luke chapter 9 or whatever. Like, nah, who's not the prodigal son? Yeah, I mean, because I didn't have to be a Blood. I became a Blood because I definitely wasn't going to the NBA. I wasn't going to the NFL. You ain't about to knock me down and give me CTE all day. I'm not trying to. I wasn't going to the NFL. I wasn't busting through the line, running a 4.40. I'm gonna admit to that. I might run a 5.2 40, but not a 4.4. But nah, man, the Bible. I like that story. It's like I fell in love with that story, man. I fall in love with dope stuff, bro. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, this young dude, his dad is still alive. He tell his dad, give me my half of the inheritance. He still got an older brother who was hating on him. But it says he left his house, riotous living, fast women. It said he ended up feeding the pigs. He was eating the pig slop. he was eating with the pigs and was just like, I wonder if I'd go to my house, if my dad will accept me. Even if he just let me feed the pigs and work for him, I'd rather go home than be in the streets. And it said that when his father seen him afar off, he ran and met him, wrapped his arms around him, put his robe on him, gave him a royal ring, some new shoes. And I got on my bright, shiny J's right now. I was like, all of that, I equate all of those biblical and Islamic stories to today, to how we live in today, because we the same people, man. We just, instead of wearing what they wore 2,000, 4,000 years ago, man, we wearing what we wearing, Versace or Jordans or whatever, but we still the same people, man. There's nothing new under the sun. But that story really resonated with me, and I was like, I am the prodigal son.
Yeah, and you had some pretty quick success in your efforts.
Oh, because I felt a void.
Right out the gate.
I felt a void. So first I went to the halfway house. I was in the halfway house for a year, but I was learning how to do a nonprofit because I didn't know how to do a nonprofit, and people don't know that, you got to file with the IRS. Just because it's a nonprofit, it's a business. If you were in the red in a nonprofit, they'll shut you down. You still got to make money with your nonprofit. A business is a business. If your business is failing, it's failing. So I learned how to do a nonprofit. I filed my paperwork with the IRS. Back then, it was $750 if you thought you were going to raise over $10,000, or like $250 if you didn't. If you just wanted to kind of do it part time, but I paid my own $750. We filed the paperwork. Like 5 months later, the IRS said you were incorporated. Shoot, me and my family, we celebrated. It was a big deal. I called it the Prodigal Son. And at that time, I was working for Einstein Bagels when I first got my 501c3. And it really started taking off when I started my after-school program in Park Hill at a elementary school called Hallett, which is my old elementary. A lot of the old Bloods who were really from Park Hill went to Hallett. And I went right back to the block, to Jasmine, and did it. And it'd be domos, it'd be shootouts and everything, because they were still selling dope right across the street. And we have my kids, and a lot of kids who would have became Bloods or just got caught up in that. I was letting them come after school, and I was actually teaching them how to play chess, because I going to prison in summer camp back now. I really loved playing chess. I used to feed myself playing chess in the penitentiary. Shout out to Malcolm. I've won 2 chess tournaments since I've been out of prison playing with Malcolm. But we started off playing chess, and it just grew. Then we started going hiking, and the kids were giving me these ideas. Kids were like, yo, let's go rock wall climbing. They used to call me Mr. Terrance. I'm like, shoot, I've never been rock wall climbing. I grew up being a Blood, going to prison. I was in the halfway house and I started my after school. I had never done none of these things. We did what do you call them, mechanics, auto mechanics class, cooking classes. We were just doing all these different things, man.
And it grew pretty quick. You went from like 11 kids to 60 kids all by yourself, and you're doing this.
Yeah, it was. Well, when you have something like that and there's no other after school programs, when you got a bunch of kids, so when I started gangbanging, that was the thing, is it wasn't none cooler than seeing your homies who you grow with, and the big homies, they flanked up, they wearing red, they wearing burgundy. They got red bandanas, they smoking bud, all the cute girls. If you wasn't going to the NFL or NBA, because you're going to get caught in that middle, you better be able to fight or gangbang. And so that was my after school program, and I really wanted to design Prodigal Son to be just as cool, because I always say this when I speak: if your after school program or your church is not as cool or as tough as the Bloods or the Crips, you can't blame a 13 or 14-year-old for being a Blood or being a Crip. They human, they gotta live, they gotta be protected. They're gonna get called a goofy, they're gonna get laughed, somebody a bomb on them, anything could happen. You know what I mean? So we started rocking first we started off with green and orange. But then I ended up making a trip to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And there were actually some activists in Port-au-Prince who were wearing camouflage that were given to them from some Chinese peacekeepers in the UN. And they were giving people rice and stuff and just doing what they could. And so I told my after-school program kids about my Haiti trip with me rocking the camouflage. With them rocking the camouflage. And they were like, we should get some camouflage shirts because it has the black and the brown. And I had a lot of Latino kids in my program and African-American kids at the time. And we started rocking the camo because it had the black and the brown pattern. Then it just became a thing because a lot of my kids' parents and older siblings were Bloods and Crips. And so when I started giving them Prodigal Son shirts, we had the gold, shiny gold logo on top of the camouflage, and it was like the hand of God holding up the city of Denver. Man, you look. I was driving down Colfax and just being in Denver, and I was seeing Bloods and Crips wearing T-shirts that we had that I wasn't there when they received the shirts, but it became a movement, and it just became a thing. It just started getting bigger than us, and it worked.
Dope. And moving up, 2008, a Crip gang member gets killed, and the Crips burn down the shopping center.
Yeah.
That had been there for how long? How long had that shopping center been there?
I don't know, man. Maybe even the 50s. It was pretty old.
Wow.
Yeah, because when I was hanging out in the Holly, when that structure was there back when I used to bang, it was already on its last leg anyways. We needed something different there, but we didn't need it to go in the way it went, because it was still, while it was still there, it was still a community icon. And I'm gonna say it was an icon, all of this stuff. That's why the story is not called the Terrance Roberts autobiography. It's called The Holly. I'm just the protagonist. But no, it was just that area all in itself, you know what I mean? But it was pretty old. It was hood. There were already talks about doing something else with it, but when the Crips burned it down, that was a different thing that took it away from us.
And what I thought was amazing in the doc, you said the idea for the basketball courts came to you in a dream?
It did. Yep. So when the arson happened, it just stayed there. It looked like Castle Grayskull. So I don't know if you've seen that part in the documentary where I got the bullhorn, we standing in front of it. It stayed looking like that. It was just arsoned for like a year. So when it got dark, we got crackheads, bass heads, everybody. They in there. You could see the lighters. It was crazy over there, man. It was real bad. It was really bad, right? So I'm arguing with the mayor at the time to just get it cleaned up. I'm like, just clean it up. And so he got a guy named Terrance Ware who knew my dad really good. They grew up doing karate together. And he was working for the mayor. And then he brought this other nonprofit who bought that whole plot. They cleaned it up. I don't know if that nonprofit cleaned it up or the previous owner, but that was like a victory for me, because me putting pressure on them and doing those marches and all of that forced the mayor's office to get somebody to buy it, because they were having this back and forth. Oh, that's the landowner's responsibility. We were saying, no, it's asbestos in there. It doesn't matter. It's unsafe. There's some homicides over here. Now it's the cities. Now it's a public safety issue. And I started getting all this media attention around it. So they got it just zero-scaped. But it was a huge slab of concrete. It was just a big old, like an acre and a half slab of concrete. But it was all busted up. It was the foundation from the Holly. And I really had a vision, bro. I was like, I said in the documentary, I was like laying in my bed and I was like sleep. You know how you sleep, but you kind of half sleep. And I was like, man, we could just, that vision, that picture that it shows on the documentary, that's literally the picture that a friend of mine, his name is Dan Levinson. He's an artist. He did all my mural work with the flames and the phoenix, the camouflage phoenix flying out the flames that you seen us doing. He drew the picture for me, and it came out, the Holly. If you've seen the construction of it after that, it was almost identical from the picture that he drew. And he drew that picture of it like a whole year before I even knew where I was going to get any money for it. And when it came to be, it was exactly that.
Okay, so moving back, when the Crips burned down the shopping center, it was about to be a war out there in Denver, pretty much. It was about to really pop off. Are you responsible for de-escalating that war? And if so, how did you manage to do that?
So I'm gonna say, like, it was kind of a war. Like, so the Bloods were arsoning things. It was some bodies. They were going back and forth. And the Crips wasn't just like, oh, we burnt down the Holly, now we done. We about to take some hits. Nah, they had a little back and forth going. And it wasn't just me. It was myself, several churches, other organizations. It was some Muslim brothers. But I was the one with the bullhorn. I got that bullhorn from Radio Shack. I went to Radio Shack on Colorado Boulevard and bought it. It was like $79. I never had a bullhorn. Because if you seen the end, I learned how to use the bullhorn. I've been using it now 20 years, but I had that big old bullhorn. I was just like, we just need some sound, because we didn't have a sound system and we had to walk. So I was like, I'm gonna just get a bullhorn. and we met at the church, and you know, that was like the first thing we did, just to say, man, we gonna do something. And the Bloods and Crips, they was cracking up when they seen that. They was like, what the hell are you doing? What are those? What are you wearing? They just started bagging on us, but we just kept doing it because then the aunties got involved and the babies got involved. And then they started seeing the moms got involved, and they were calling me like, hey, T, man, my auntie and my mom's going to your thing, bro. And they, you know, because when I got out of prison, they were just like, oh, they were kind of making fun of me. Oh, showbiz is out. They're still calling me showbiz, but I was such a different person. You know what I mean? That's when they really started taking me very, very serious, when the Holly burnt down. And I mean, man, I started meeting I grew up with the Domos, man. So I started meeting with them and talking to them. And there was times where they told me like, yo, T, like, get up out of here, bro. Tonight ain't even, because, you know, when that murder spirit, man, when they tribal and they amped up and they ready to go, that's not really a place for an activist all the time, you know what I mean? But there was times where, you know, that I was included or invited to even come, and they would listen to me. Cast and wrestle guns out of people's hands. It got pretty wild, you know? There were times when they listened to me, but I'm gonna be honest, there were times where it was not my place to. There's times where I wasn't even safe, or I'd be on my way to a visual or something, and somebody be like, don't even, just trust me, bro. Don't even come, man. Somebody they'll pop you or something, bro. And then there's times where those same guys that let me in the Crips got my friend Gerald. So shout out Gerald Wright. You know, he grew up in Park Hill, but he was really a hooper. We thought him and Chauncey were actually going to go to the NBA together, but he started cripping, and he got shot a couple times. He got shot in the head, and he just took cripping way serious. So instead of the NBA, he started gangbanging, and but we knew each other. We were in kindergarten together. You know, so we ended up popping on each other and having that kind of relationship, gangbanging. But then I ran into him at Manual High School when I got out of prison, and he was like, "Bro, I want to get involved." And he started getting involved, and he had a lot of love from the Crips, so he would invite me to his birthday parties and stuff, and it'd be 200 Crips in the park, and I show up. You know what I mean?
He's on the dock.
Yeah, he's the one brother who's in the documentary, Gerald Wright. So,
yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, who said that, you know, we used to shoot at it, you know, like I'm in a room with somebody who shot me. But so he started helping me.
That was a hell of a scene right there.
Yeah, nah, man. And all them brothers, man, shout out to, you know, and those other brothers in there, like, you know, they're like the Denver, the Colorado Raymond Avenues. So, you know, shout out to Payday Cap, you know, Baby, everybody who was in there, Nike Needy, you know, we had a good time, man. Doing the work. It's as hard as it was. We had a good time mending those relationships. But now Gerald got involved, which really kind of showed the Crips, because the Crips was kind of like, oh, he over there with his homies. So the Crips really wasn't listening to me. But once Gerald got involved, we were able to get the Crips and the Bloods, because his kids were in my after school program, actually, because I knew his son and his daughter's mom. We all grew up together over there. So Gerald really helped me grow it with the Crips, and it became a thing. The Bloods and the Crips were involved now. So there see Gerald pull up with some blue, with the camo, wearing my Prodigal Son gear. And it wasn't just my gear, it's the whole organization. Then the Bloods from Park Hill, they were rocking it. And we would go to parties or something, and you look up, it'd be 10 Crips with some camo, and 4, 5, 10 Damus with camo. And then I'm an activist. Gerald is an activist, and it was synergy, man. It was love. It was kind of like we all from the same gang almost. It was that feeling.
Around this time, you're building the courts. A billionaire comes in with some funding. Was he funding the courts, or was he trying to fund something opposite of what you were doing?
So now this is how that happened. So I funded through my 501c3. I raised $370,000, because those sports are it's called sport court, and it cost about $50,000 each court. Because even though we had this big slab of concrete, I had to get it perfectly flat. We have to use a laser to get it flat, because you can't put those towels on it and they interlock. If you got a big dip, you're gonna crack the tile. You're gonna break it. It got to be flat, and they have like these little tooth combs under it to kind of elevate it so water could drain out of it. But no, it cost about $50,000. We had to get the hoops installed. So the Denver Nuggets donated the hoops, and those were like regulation outdoor hoops. And I had to get an engineer to put the hoops in. So it cost me almost $400,000. But I called the Boys and Girls Club. I called their CEO. I cold called him one day like, hey man, I'm in Northeast Park Hill. You know, it has about 9,000 people. This how many gang members. This how many homicides we've had. Assaults. It's a lot of bloods. I was a blood. And he listened to me. He came and met with me, and I showed him all the courts. And I was like, man, we could have a youth center right here. I didn't know that Libby Andrews, which her father is Philip Andrews, and I think he like owns part of the Lakers. So even though he's in Denver, from Denver, but I know you said you're a Lakers fan, but a Denver guy owns, or he did part of, or some of, maybe all of the Lakers, but I know he owned a lot of the Lakers. He owned like a lot of soccer teams. He's worth like $7-8 billion. And she told her dad about it. So one day I came to my office. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. I didn't even know she was gonna be there with him. It was John Aragoni, Libby Andrews, and a guy named Ted Harms who was running the Andrews Foundation. And I came to my office and they were staring at that picture. They were looking at that drawing. And John Aragoni introduced me to her. I didn't even know who she was. At the time, he's like, yo, this is Libby Andrews. Now I know she's a big figure in Denver because there's a lot of Andrews children's hospitals, Andrews family centers at like Kent, Denver, stuff like that, these schools. So they fund a lot of development projects and they put their name on it. So Andrews is huge in Colorado. But I didn't even know. I was ignorant to who she was, or Ted Harms. And I didn't know they could give us $5 million. But I talked to her about it. I said, yeah, I had my friend draw this. I could walk you over to the courts, but we could have a youth center here. I told her to spill how many gang incidents happened, how I was in the gang and all that. They were just listening. They weren't even talking. They were just listening to me. And she was like, can you take us over there now? And Hassan, the young man who I ended up having to defend myself against, him, and it was a bunch of Bloods on the wall. And they were whistling at her, and that was all kind of stuff. And, they were like, who's that? T, what's up? I'm just like, oh, these just my people. You know what I mean? Because they wasn't used to. Ted Harms had a suit on. We really weren't used to white people like that so much coming into the Holly. And I took her to the courts and they were impressed. They were just like, you did all this? I said, yeah, I'm raising all the money through my 501c3. And they were like, how you doing it? I was like, well, I'm writing grants. I'm doing fundraisers where people's putting checks in the fishbowl. It might be $200. It might be $2,500. And I was like, I just saved it all up and I had an account. I had a peace course. It was called the Peace Mural Peace Courts Project. And they were just listening to me. And then John Aragoni called me back. He was like, man, I don't think you understand who we were with, but they're talking about giving $5 million for the youth center. How would you feel about Libby putting her mom's name on it? And I researched him after that. And then I found out, I know like her dad's like, he's this real conservative guy. And, because he does find like a lot of conservative endeavors, even legally, you know what I mean? And some stuff that I don't agree with and all that. But I mean, $5 million, man, is bigger than me and my personal beliefs. It's all about these children. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, I don't care what you call it. Like, I'm not going to be disrespectful about them naming it after her mom. And she's asking her father and their foundation to give us $5 million. So they probably would have did it whatever I said. But yeah, they were like, it's a go. And they gave us $5 million to build the youth center. It's still one of the best youth centers right now in the entire nation. So it's
still there to this day.
It's doing great. It's there. It's looking good. It's still looking brand new.
So, but you supported it initially, and then you didn't anymore. And why?
Well, so I'm happy it's there still.
Mm-hmm.
But where we started falling out. So when you get a community development like that, this is what like a lot of activists, because everyone's an activist now. Back then, no one was an activist. Now everyone's one. And everybody wants a youth center or wants to do development. There has to be a CBA, a community benefits agreement. And when you're making a community benefits agreement, it could be in a Puerto Rican community in New York. It could be an African-American. It could be whatever. But it has to benefit this particular culture, this community. And, I said I wanted African-American contractors. I wanted, that was a way to bring jobs for some of them Bloods over there, some of them Crips, some of them people. My old big homies, he drinking a 40 ounce. Oh, so what a job. Can you shovel some sand? I'll shovel sand. Well, shit, come get a job, bruh. But that was my vision of it. And at first it was kind of like that, but then more and more, a couple brothers made a couple mistakes. You're going to have that. Even the people who they brought in made mistakes too. We had to, they used to get drunk and one of them was whistling at my homeboy's aunt, and her nephew was like this super out of control Blood. And I had to go over there and tell the construction workers, like, bruh, do not whistle at no women over here. they would come over here and whoop the whole crew. Oh, me too. Me too. So we started having issues with these workers they were bringing in, because a couple people like made a mistake, that was just their excuse. Like, oh, the community people don't want to do the work. I was like, nah, man, that's just Tommy. Tommy, he needs counseling. He's been shot 5 times, man. Like, give him a chance. He missed on Tuesday. But they started bringing in extra people who weren't from the community. People from the community started putting pressure on me. They weren't hiring African-American contractors. They didn't even give African-American contractors at the time I felt a chance to mess up or not. They were just using like just laborers. I was like, that's not the community benefits agreement. But what happens is once it's $5 million, once it's all in international media, and once they got the tractor and the crane over there, it's like, shut up, Terrance. Like, that's how it was. It was like, oh yeah, no, we didn't. Like, what you gonna do about it? What you gonna chain yourself to the fence? This ain't good times, bruh. They'll arrest you. So it's like, I was just getting more and more frustrated, and my voice was my only weapon. So I was just like, I'm happy that it's coming, but I came against the process, but I'm happy for the kids to have that, because the kids needed that,
Okay, so let's move up to the incident in the day that changed your life forever. How long did you know Hassan Jones, or did you know Hassan Jones before the incident between you two happened?
Man, it's funny. So literally the day we moved into my office, we call it the corny corn cookout. We got some footage of it in the doc. We got the corn and the beef. So I was just like, I'm corny, bruh. Like, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So we was like, man, let's do an event to open up. So somebody actually brought us these big old boxes of corn with the ear on them and everything. And it was like 6 boxes. I was like, we're going to do the corny corn cookout. We made a flyer and everything. And we had all this corn. I was like, we just going to barbecue it. We just threw it together. It was impromptu. That day, literally the day we were moving into the office, we all in the back, we having a good time, we eating corn, we hear a bunch of screaming and hollering. Me and Gerald go out front, and it was actually a sister named Tina who was there too. Me, Gerald, and Tina Miles, I think that's her last name. And Hassan and the group of Bloods got some little Crip brother, and they trying to put him in the car. They trying to kidnap him. See, they didn't know we were back there, because you could see us back there kind of having that thing in the documentary. And I got the camouflage shirt on and all the people. So we were doing that. And man, they were just going on some gang banging, and they were across the street. And I don't really know or not if they knew we were back there like that. All I know is when we came to the front, they had a Caprice Classic, and they had them by, somebody had them like in a whatever you call it from behind, full Nelson or whatever it is. They had him from the back. So they had his legs, and they was falling back into the car with him. They was about to stuff him into the car. Me and Gerald, I grabbed him. It's like, nah, bro. Like, what is y'all doing? Because you on my property now. You know what I mean? But he grabbed the little Crip brother, and we put him behind me and Gerald. And Munch got up in my face like, who the fuck is you? I'm like, who the fuck are you? I'm from the hood too. You know what I mean? I never seen him before. I'm older than him. He's younger than me, way younger. I hadn't been in Blood for a long time. So I'm resurfacing now as an activist, but I didn't know all them young, these are the YGs. I was a YG in the 90s. It's later, right? So we didn't know each other. We had a face-off, and we had the little Crip dude. So we took the little Crip brother in my office, and Hassan and about 20 Bloods circled the block for like 2 hours. We was in there with senators, all kind of people, elected officials, and it was him and a gang of Bloods just walking around. And then when they dissipated, me and Gerald dropped the little Crip brother off. He was actually living in Park Hill, and later on, Hassan told me that the reason why they did that to him, because it was his brother. His brother was one of the Holly 9 who burned down the Holly, and they said that they were, so across the street we called out the Red Wall, and they were across the street, across 33rd, standing on the wall. That's kind of where all the domos in Park Hill kind of, if you don't go to the Holly, man, you ain't even from the hood. And they were all over there, and they spotted him, and they knew each other. They all grew up together and stuff. And they ran over there to jump on him, and they pulled up in the car, and they was going to put him in the car and do whatever to him. I don't know. And then that's when we came out, because after me and Munch got cool and started to learn each other, he kind of gave me the backstory on what happened. But that's how I met Hassan, was that day. And, you know, we knew each other for a few years, man, but I wasn't always around them. They were younger than me. But as he got older and I started, like, man, those dudes would be over there selling dope in the rain. And they'd be like, T, let me come in and use the bathroom. Of course, I'm going to let them use the bathroom. The way me and them started getting cool was I was having meetings at my office, and we'd be having all these bagels and danishes and donuts and coffee. I took it over there to him. It was like one day, it was like him and like 10 different Bloods. And I had this big old plastic tray from like Kroger or King Supers or something. It was full of danishes and stuff, man. I had some Starbucks coffee in a little brown box. And it was out there, it was like drizzling in the rain. It was freezing to death. And we weren't talking because of that initial incident. And I walked it over there to him, and shoot, they ate it up. And, you know, he was like, man, you know, my dad told me, because his dad is Ice and I grew up with Ice. Ice was my big homie. I really looked up to Ice. He was one of them super Bloods I told you about. And I was like, man, if y'all ever want something, bro, or y'all need to use the bathroom or catch a cab. Back then it wasn't Uber or Lyft. It was a cab. You know what I mean? It's like, y'all need to catch a cab or something. Like, you're welcome to come to my office. You just can't. It's not the dom. It's not, because, you know, one thing about gangbanging, you give some Bloods and Crips an inch. Oh, we could come over there? Hey, everybody, come on. After party at Blood's house. At the office. And that's what ended up happening when I moved out. But, man, I told them, man, y'all brothers is more than welcome to just come through if you want. But, and they came through. Hey, let me use the bathroom. Let me wait. So then one day, him and a bunch of domos, and this was a couple of years of this, actually, we just kept our distance, and I never became like an anti-gang activist. I'm an anti-violence activist. I don't care what you call yourself. You could be a negative peer group and be a football team. It don't matter. You don't have to say you're a Blood or a Crip. They just use that mainly against people of color. But there's negative peer groups under all kind of, it's millionaire negative peer groups. You know what I mean? But I was never against them brothers, man. I was a Blood myself, you know?
Right, because you eventually take Hassan to a Nuggets game.
Yeah, man, he was my dude. Like, you know, minus the fuckery he's done, like, man, I feel sorry for the guy, man. Like, you know, I don't wish that on him or nobody, you know, but hey, he made his own bed too. But nah, man, if you know Hassan, if you know any of these Bloods or Crips, man, they cool dudes, man. They smart, they funny. That's why kids join gangs to stay in gangs. It's not all mean, mugging, and bad. It's mainly fun, you know, but the more they started coming to the office and the more, you know, I'll go over there and go get me some Doritos or go get me an iced tea or some Skittles or something back then. The more I got to know him all, man, I knew his dad, and there's always Bloods coming through the Holly who knew me but knew them. So we all just kind of made a connection, but they really respected my activism. They didn't start disrespecting my activism until those other brothers got moved in at the computer shop. But up until then, man, it was mainly me over there and a bunch of younger Bloods. The older Damos was come by the Holly, but it wasn't nowhere for you if you a grown Blood to be hanging around. But I ended up building a relationship with not just Hassan, but all of those younger Bloods, man. We didn't have Freeway Rick over there, not the rapper, but the real Freeway Ricky Ross. He's been to the Holly. We didn't have AD from No Jumper. He's been over there. He did a video. I had him over there with 50 Bloods, you know what I mean? And they knew who AD was because they follow. They love Vlad. They love you. They know. Like, anything that's West Coast, Tupac, hip-hop, all them little Bloods, they own it. Crips, they own it in Denver. But, man, we didn't have T.I. over there. Man, we didn't have everybody in the Holly. And it was love up until right before the shooting.
Okay, so around this time, 2012, the Prodigal Son starts to run out of funding.
Yeah.
Did you start Project Safe Neighborhoods or join Project Safe Neighborhoods at this point?
So this is what happened with that. So I started protesting because when I first got out of prison, and it was older brothers and sisters and activists, they would kind of criticize me too because I had my after school program. I'm all in the news. So I was in prison studying revolutionaries and revolutionary action. But when I got out, I was new to it, man. I'm trying to just not be a Blood no more. I'm trying to just be a positive brother. I'm in the halfway house. I'm working at Einstein Bagels. I'm coming to Park Hill. This Bloods who I never seen. They cracking up, laughing at me. They banging on me like, who is you? You know what I mean? I'm just trying to just do me and survive that. And when I started my after school program, I was not protesting police violence. I was not talking about food deserts and income inequity and generational wealth. I wasn't talking about those things. I'm just happy to be out the halfway house with my little program playing chess and stuff. But it'd be older ex-Black Panthers and older brothers and sisters be like, brother, you ain't talking about this, you know. And when I started, so it was actually when Trayvon Martin got killed. I organized a big thing, and it ended up being a huge march through downtown. I had my bullhorn, and it's now a defunct newspaper called the Rocky Mountain News. They put like a picture of me with my bullhorn, and it was somebody standing behind me that said, the police are the biggest gang in Denver. And he had a sign. And the next day it was 2 patrol cars just parked in my office in the Holly. And you know, man, when you got 50, 60 Bloods, Crips coming through there shooting, there's all kind of stuff going on in the community, man. And even on good days, people don't want to see just 2 police cars parked at the office. So I came out. And I'm just like, what's up? And, you know, when people think about policing, you see what happened with Tyree Nichols. It's not just a bunch of old, tall white men from Mississippi, because when you think about the police, you just think about a bunch of racist white men. But, man, these brothers were young Black and Latino men and some white men, and they were pressing me. And they had tattoos, all that. They was bangers. And they were police, and they started pressing me. They seen me in the newspaper. And that was my first... After Trayvon Martin got killed, that's when I started having my issues with the Denver police.
And so you eventually started working with Project Safe Neighborhoods.
Yeah. And
they were funded by some of the same entities that were trying to gentrify that area.
I mean, I'm going to just flat out say it's law enforcement. I mean, if you're getting money from the Department of Justice, you're getting the same money as the FBI, as the ATF.
All come from the same pot.
It's all the same director. It's all the same thing, right? So, but man, not only did we need the money to survive, but all of these things I have to admit I was not fully understanding. I was growing in my activism. I was healing my mind, my body from not only my own personal trauma and drama and gang banging, but just I'm trying to be a citizen. I'm a citizen now, you know what I mean? So if you get into it with the police in Denver, the police run Denver. I can't speak about LA. I don't know about Chicago or New York. I'm from Denver. I know in Denver the police were dating all the reporters, hanging out with all the foundations. So if the police say they don't like you, you're done. And when I did that Trayvon Martin, and the police didn't even kill Trayvon Martin, it was George Zimmerman. But when I did that and they seen that picture of me and they started pressing me and I came out like, what's up, what y'all doing? They were just me mugging me. It was on right there. As the police started acting like they didn't like me and coming to my office, parking and putting pressure on me, all of a sudden funders didn't like me. I stopped getting invited to certain things. My local media coverage went from a lot to either little, or if it was media coverage, you could tell it was like this weird energy around me. Not like, oh, he's just a cool activist. Now it was like, he's a controversial ex-gang member activist.
Started to get some more adjectives.
Everything, yeah. The whole shit changed. Excuse my language, but it all changed. You know what I mean? So, which was cool with me because I'm an ex-gang banger. You can't use that. I'm an activist, right? So, but they started trying to put those pressures on me. And it got to the point where I started calling out foundations for being racist and working with law enforcement nefariously. Are y'all the police, or are you supposed to be funding after school programs? What are y'all trying to do? Because y'all need to leave the activism to us. And when I started saying these things, of course, these foundations are either funded by millionaire white people mainly, a couple of millionaire Black or Latinos, not very many, especially in Colorado. And definitely white people definitely did not want to hear what I had to say, talk about none of that, because they used to Sambos, man. Denver, I love my city, but man, they breeding Sambos. It's the Sambo per capita capital. Everyone in Denver, if you're an African-American leader, you're a local celebrity, and you ain't trying to lose that, because if you could hit, I'm going to tell you something, man, why everybody has a 501c3 now, why everybody's doing nonprofit work, even rappers, your rap career could dry up, but your 501c3 could hit for a grant for $200,000-$300,000. It's possible. Mm-hmm. It's not always possible, but it's a dream. Just like the music industry is a dream, you know, but it's a base, you know, it's a culture now. It's an industry, you know. And they started defunding me, and I stood strong on mine because I started getting more personal donations, which is really what you want from a nonprofit. You don't want your nonprofit funded by grid, you really want, if you could have a perfect scenario, if you run a nonprofit, you want to raise millions of dollars from individuals. You want Idi Amin and Vlad and Nam. That's who you want funding you. But if you don't have that, you got to take that grant because nothing's for free. It all costs.
And during this time period where you're in this transitional period, is it true that they wanted you to provide criminal information?
Yeah, definitely.
In exchange for funding?
Yeah, so part of the grant was pretty much written in. It was like a memorandum of understanding. That's what they called it. Where we had these sessions, they were literally calling it word on the street sessions. So I really wasn't tripping on it at first. Man, we went to the table, it'd be like juvenile probation, juvenile parole, adult probation, adult parole, FBI, Denver police, Denver sheriffs, Colorado Highway Patrol, LAPD might stop. Oh, I was a probation officer in Riverside. It'd be like 50 different police agencies. And then it's us ex-gang member activists. And we sit at this table and they literally came with it's time for word on the street. I'm like, what's word on the street? And they wanted us to be like, yeah, Jimmy's my client. Came to the office with some blue tennis shoes on. What? Little Jimmy? Yeah, he had on some blue tennis shoes. They writing down stuff. And there was other activists doing this stuff at the table. So I told myself, I said, we ain't going to do that, bruh. For one, that's not what we here for. It's not about we're against law enforcement or I'm still trying to hold a gangster bravado or no snitching. That's not really what I was pushing. I'm here to help a young blood or crip or a young sister get a job. Not for word on the street, because if you tell somebody's probation or parole officer they wearing red or blue, you might just be in there running your mouth, but they might have in their parole or their probation stipulations, like I had, you can't wear. So if Terrance is in the meeting saying you wearing red tennis shoes or blue tennis shoes, and that's in your parole stipulations, they're going to listen to us on Tuesday morning at the word on the street meeting, but on Thursday, boom, 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 they banging on your door. So I said we wasn't going to do that. So not only was I already beefing with law enforcement about the Trayvon Martin stuff, and that started escalating, now I'm signed up with this grant, but part of the stipulations were, yes, we participated in word on the street. So I was literally breaking our memorandum of understanding by telling my staff, because I had 2 outreach workers that they were paying for. So they're paying my outreach workers staff. And they gave Prodigal Son $1,000 a month extra just to house these 2 outreach workers. And they were paying them like $50,000. Like they had benefits and everything, but we were running it through Prodigal Son. I had a payroll company. I had a board of directors. It was all legit. It was all hooked up. So in order for us to get them brothers jobs and to really help out, I was thinking it was going to be more, but I wasn't. I was like, all right, we got you 2 brothers some nice jobs. We getting this extra $1,000 a month just to house y'all. We in the conversation to get more money. That's what I was imagining. But it really became more of a, oh, y'all don't want to do word on the street? Because I couldn't go to every meeting. I'm out. I'm meeting with the mayor's office. I'm doing stuff. I'm running the company. But when my outreach workers were going, I told them like, no, we're not doing word on the street. And they became the out guys in those meetings. And then I went to a meeting and they pressed me on it like, well, what's going on? Why aren't you following the contract with telling your people not to have these conversations with us? And I'm like, we're not law enforcement. That's you guys' job to do, right? You guys got all these different resources. And I ended up walking out of the meeting, but we're funded. So I pretty much broke that contract. And I was just in a world of trouble after that. They didn't want to fund me. I pretty much, we were in trouble, man. By the time the incident happened, they were putting the squeeze on me. The only thing that was really keeping me afloat was that over my years, I had a lot of individual donors. I'm going to say it was mainly a lot of older white people who didn't understand the politics and what I was in. They just was like, oh, Terrance is this ex-gang member. But they were giving me, $5,000, $2,000, $50, but it was a lot of them. So it kind of helped me keep the lights on and helped me kind of stay funded. But all of that was, they were putting the squeeze on me.
Right, because eventually you have to move out.
No, so this is what happened. So what happened was after we got the basketball courts built, and we started getting the youth center built, I was kind of in charge of all of that a little bit, but I had to shut down my everyday after school program because that was really where the bulk of my money was going, was really buying snacks, taking them hiking, rafting, because you can't have somebody's kids in your program. It's not a quality program. And so when I started losing that type of grant money, I was like, well, that's the program. But what we were doing anyways, where I was just going to transition into doing basketball courts, going to blighted areas. I went to Chicago. I had came to Los Angeles a couple of times, going to Watts. So I wanted to transition anyways, even though they forced me to shut down. But I was already transitioning to saying, man, these kids are getting older. I don't want a new batch of 8-year-olds and raise them to they 15. Like, because this time, like, these kids were getting a little older and they were like, man, we want to do this type of development. But just like the Holly, we knew it had to go. We just didn't like how it left. It's kind of like my after school program. We knew we had to do it different, but they shut it down before we could really transition. But like I said, we were still in play. I was just gonna say, all right, I don't have to after school program money, but we're not gonna shut down. I'm kind of scrappy and I'm hard headed myself. We're gonna stick around, but I was looking for other areas outside of Park Hill to do a community led development, and that was a transition, but we didn't really get there because the shooting ended up happening.
So before we get into the shooting, another prominent figure on the documentary, The Holly, is Reverend Leon Kelly, who for all intents and purposes was sent to be your replacement. What's your thoughts on that whole process and how he was able to come in, and was he beneficial to, what was going on in Denver, or was he counterproductive to it?
So I'm going to say, I mean, if you look at the homicide numbers in Denver now, it's back to what it looked like when Bloods and Crips in the early 90s, and we were calling that the summer of violence. If you look at Denver and Aurora, they averaging, the murder rate is almost like it is in Oakland. In East Oakland, that's a war zone. It's much worse than Denver. But the homicide rates are almost similar now if you look. And it's like, man, so if you really want to look at the work, no, it did not help any, And Reverend Kelly, me and him used to not get along when I was a Damu, because I'm standing in the Holly, I'm selling dope. We got a Mac in the bushes. I got some dope in the dunts. I got a whole ounce of dope. We bopping, this Crips coming through. It's a mess over there, bruh. We playing music, we drunk, we busting bottles. And then he pull up, banging he had a big old truck with a booming system. So, and he's very open about me and him did not get along. Cause I'm standing over there like, are you an activist? Like, do you want to be, I want to be like you, but it seemed like you want to be like me. So I didn't really like him even back then. I'm like, what is you doing, bro? Like, turn your music down, homie. We got a box. Like, what is you doing? We already knew he had nefarious law enforcement connections because he was the first anti-gang violence activist in Denver. You got to give him those props, man. Like, he was the first. So he did kind of set the standard for that. But I didn't become an activist because of him. He likes to say that sometimes, like, oh, I'm Moses and Terrance is my Joshua. No, my name's Terrance. My name's not Joshua, right? So we started having those issues. But I went to him, man. Like, when I first got out of prison, he called me up. I'm like, yeah, man, I just want to see how to do it. And he took me to a barbecue. It was, so all the Bloods on Father's Day, the BOYZ organization I told you that was in Park Hill before the Bloods, that organization always does a big, huge Father's Day thing. But since it's the Park Hill organization, it'd be full of hundreds of Bloods. It's like Bloods from Cali and everything would come. And so he asked me to come with him one day, and I'm wearing my Prodigal Son t-shirt. And I wore that kind of to let him know I'm not doing open door, but I respect you. And he took me to this park, man. It probably had 300-400 Bloods in the park. Luckily for me, the Damus really had respect for me because they could have kicked my head off in the park. Nothing happened to me. But after that, man, my father actually was like, man, like I can't believe he took you over there, bruh. And I was like, he did, but nobody disrespected me. So that was like the first incident that me and my family was like, man, we got to kind of watch this guy. But as Prodigal Son grew, so his office and his after school program, the people who bought the Holly, they also owned where his after school program was, which is in the Crip community west of Carr Boulevard near the Five Points. And so he's an older brother. He's older than me at the time. I'm in my 30s. He's 50s or whatever at that time. He's gregarious. He's raising millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands. I got my little 501c3. So they really kind of fell in love with his energy. He was in with the mayor's office, and he's rep, and they loved him, So it got to the point to where when I fell out with law enforcement, you could tell the landowners was like, we want him in the place of Terrance, because I'm the one who started doing the development. He had never done development. I'm the one who's we doing camo, we doing big, we getting big stuff cracking, and yeah, I really felt like Rev kind of wanted to slide into that position, and all these older Bloods and Crips that he had been working with since the 80s. Some of them ended up working for law enforcement through their dealings in life and gangbanging and selling dope and their trauma. And they were connected to Rev. Rev was connected to law enforcement and the developers in the mayor's office. And I do feel like through their relationship with Reverend Kelly, and there's another brother who you see in the film. Every time you see him, he's with law enforcement. His name is Jeff Fard, Brother Jeff. He's the one who tried to shush Gerald up, like, we're talking about this piece of paper. And Gerald's like, we already talked about that, brother. So I think this brother Jeff Fard, and Reverend Kelly colluded with the foundations, with law enforcement, and with the owners of the Holly to have me removed. But when defunding me didn't work, when the politics didn't work, it broke down into all these older Bloods and Crips, and there was a group of Crips who wanted to get me and a group of Bloods.
The computer repair shop that was ran by a brother named Carl McKay.
Yes, sir.
It was funny because I'm watching the doc and he was like, he had no computer, like he wasn't known for computers, but he just opens a repair shop one day and has the money to do so.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the Holly, the neighborhood, you know what I mean, where you guys are all from. What was your first impressions of that? And did your spidey senses start going off when you seen it, or did it take a minute for you to really find out what was going on with that?
Come on, man, $99 computers. I ain't stupid, bruh. I ain't banging no more, but
yeah.
And there's always been rumors about him and his, like, some of them older Bloods and Crips working for the police, snitching. Them brothers should sell big dope. Getting caught with 9 ounces, 6 ounces. You seen in the end how many felonies they said the brother had. I didn't check his record. I just know growing up, like, oh, that brother caught another case. Oh, what you in here for? Oh, I caught with the bag. Like, okay, so it was many of those things when I was banging because we were in communication. But as soon as they put up that shop, brother, it's like, man, the first thing that came to my head was the first computer cost like $500,000. Computers have never cost $99, but I'm not banging. I'm not trying to press him like, are you a snitch? That ain't my job. Hey, if the Damus want to let you, that's their thing. I'm not showbiz. So I talked to Carl, talked to them brothers, and in the back of my mind, I knew they was telling, like, what you doing? Then they started wearing camouflage. Then they started telling people I was telling. And that's when it became a problem, because now you telling people I'm telling. Now it's an issue because I'm not trying to be gangster, but when have computers ever cost $99? But I didn't have the backing of all the munches and all the YGs, and they killing people, getting shot, and they whooping through the hood, whooping, whichever one you want to use. I just had like some little old ladies and some kids, man. Just my organization. So they calling me a snitch. I'm pretty much like, no, y'all really snitching. I don't have no co-defendants. Snitch for what? Like, but since I wasn't banging no more, since I'm working with all these nerdy looking people, it was very easy for them to start telling that. So we had an incident, and I don't know if you have that in your questions. So we ended up having Drugs Inc. come to the hood. And they started trying to say, well, I'm snitching because I brought Drugs Inc. to the hood. Which the Damus was asking to talk to them. They all grown. They adults. So Drugs Inc., they emailed me from London. It was like, hey, we're going to do this production. We coming to Denver. And I was like, oh, this is the day I have Free Ray Rick there. I was like, oh, we got Free Ray Rick. he's coming. He's here. He's gonna be in my office. So Drugs Inc. came. They met Freeway Rick. Some of the Damus came. They was all in the office talking. So they were like, well, we're not gonna film today, but we'll be back to film. So they talked to all the Bloods and everything. They even went off to their own filming with some Bloods. But I was like the nucleus. I'm the person who they contacted because they Googled and they seen me. You know what I'm saying? So the Drugs Inc. came out. Hassan was rocking camo. I had took him to the Nuggets game. I had talked to him a lot, spent some time with him. He had even bonded out of jail. I went and picked him up way out in Adams County. He had nobody to call. He called me. You know, so we had like a little relationship. I felt like I was mentoring Hassan, you know, but when they ended up moving those Bloods over to the Holly, man, Carl McKay through that computer shop, because the Bloods were always there, but they had a stable base now because they could go over there and kick it with him. Then they also had a hair salon with this sister. Her name's Zenobia. And they just did this ridiculous thing on me on Saturday where she slandered me heavily. But she's like an ex-Crip. So she had a hair salon. Her baby's father is the dude who's in the documentary named Big Rodney, who also got arrested when Carl McKay got arrested, admitted working for the police. He was in the car with them. But she got a new man, but her baby daddy, he 2 doors down. He a Blood. Her new man, some Jamaican dude. She over there. She got Bloods and Crips. They over there, and to come to find out they all working. To me, they was all working for the police, but I know for a fact Carl McKay admitted working for the police. And there's always been rumors that Rodney Jackson, which is Big Rodney, her baby's dad, which is his best friend, was working for the police. You can see him in the doc. And I feel like they ran a COINTELPRO on me. I feel like they literally implanted those brothers with that computer shop to just start calling me a snitch, to start putting pressure, because no one's ever accused me of being a snitch.
I mean, it's actually classic COINTELPRO.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Movements, how they move. And it's right out of their playbook.
Yep.
And so moving up 2013, the Boys and Girls Club is about to launch.
All this is happening at once.
You still supporting it, even though, you know what I mean, things have changed.
Yep.
The day of the rally, is it true that a producer from the National Geographic was trying to get in contact with you?
That's the Drugs Inc. So that's the Drugs Inc.
So that's the Drugs Inc.
Because that's Drugs Inc. is a National Geographic program. Right. So that's what I was talking about. So yeah, so when the Drugs Inc. came out, because there was some Bloods on there, they showed they heats, all that stuff, you know, they doing their Damu thing. They showed some Crips. I don't even know how they got a hold of. They showed some A-Tray Crips. I don't even know how they got a hold of them. But when the documentary came out, some of them older Bloods who were working for the police was like, I told you he was a snitch. He brought Drugs Inc. to the hood. So they didn't like, because Hassan got mad because him and a bunch of Bloods did an interview full of camouflage, like, I want to be positive. We rocking with Terrance. But if you watch the Drugs Inc., they didn't show Hassan for not even 1 second. They didn't show me. So the next day, I had half a blunt in my ear, and we in my office, and my partner, Brian Butler, you see him for a second on the documentary. He's like, Terrance is always saying some fiery stuff, but that's just him. But he wasn't wrong. So, I grew up with Brian. So he was one of my outreach workers who was not supposed to be doing word on the street. So he was like, yeah, bro, been over there pacing back and forth. He was like, he over there doing his angry man walk.
Hassan.
Yeah, he was like, because, every time, you could tell when he mad, because we look at the office and you could tell when something going on, because they over there walking like this, you know what I mean? So he's like, he over there doing his angry man walk. So I knew I had a little half a blunt, so I walked over there. So I pulled my blunt out, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's up, bro? I could already tell he's mad at me. And this first thing, he was like, this is the first words out of his mouth. I sparked up the blunt. I handed it to him. He looked me in the eye. It's like, Blood, they didn't put me in the documentary. So he wasn't mad like, oh, you a snitch. He was mad because they didn't show him on TV. And I was like, they didn't show me on TV either. Like, they didn't show me, bro. Like, it's not my program. Because I needed to raise some money. I wanted to be, because I didn't know it was going to be so sensationalized. I have to admit, I was ignorant to how sensationalized it turned out. I'm thinking they're going to show us with the camo. They're going to talk about the hood. No, they want to talk about drugs. It's not camo or Positive Inc. It's Drugs Inc.
Right, Drugs Inc. So
we came out, they show all the Bloods waving guns. The Crips is talking crap. So then the Bloods tried to act like, oh, he's a snitch because he introduced us to them. And I got some A-Trays indicted. I don't even know how they talk to them dudes. It had nothing to do with me. That's just like how Nam hooked me up with you. It's my choice to talk to you. If I say something stupid, that ain't Nam's fault. So anyways, they started calling me a snitch heavy. Now Munch is mad. Now he's upset. Not only was he not on the Drugs Inc., but these older Bloods was like, he's a snitch. So next thing you know, it went from Blood, why didn't they put me on the documentary, to Terrance is a snitch.
Right, because even before the incident happened, you found a knife stuck in some chicken along with a note.
Well, no, that's right before I ended up having to shoot him. So that led up. So them calling me a snitch led up to, and this was like I don't know, like maybe it had been a few days or maybe a week or so, but like one day I walked to the candy store. I'm just testing them. It was like 12 little Damus over there, but you could tell the energies. You cut it with a knife. But I'm from over there, man. I'm in the office. I didn't do nothing to him. But I didn't really know how much pressure behind the scenes they were putting, like, yo, y'all beat his ass. And Hassan and them, you could tell they didn't want to, but they were mad at me and they had to listen. So I'm in the hat after that. They want to DP me, but I'm not from the hood. So if you from the hood, the DP, you accept your DP if you wrong, and then you take that. You come back to the hood if you ain't you know, if you ain't a sucker. But I'm not from the hood. You assaulting me, bro, and I didn't do nothing to be DP'd. I've never been DP'd. Y'all talk to the people on your own, but these older Bloods, Carl and some of those other Damus, were telling him like, y'all get him, y'all beat his ass. So you could tell it was bad energy, but Hassan and them didn't want to do it. So I walked to the candy store one day just to test them across the street, and they started walking off. And when they walked off, I could hear somebody be like, snitch. And I'm looking around. It's only me and them. So that's how I really started knowing that they were like calling me a snitch. I'm like, what the hell? So then they just started full out clowning me. So I'm silly. I'm on my Facebook. Like, yo, I'm gonna be in my office 9 a.m., whoever's tripping. And that just escalated things. And I'm running my mouth now. They're across the street running their mouth. And it just almost became, man, it was like 33rd Avenue was Bloods on the south side of 33rd, and Prodigal Son and the Camouflage was on the other side. And it was almost like I wasn't allowed to go to the store, because now it's like if I go to the store, they could just rush me. We could ride across the street. We could look at each other. And we all know each other. And if they came on my courts, the people who started working with Ref owned the property, but I had a land use agreement. And I had, like I told you, I had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that my company owned the equipment. We just didn't own the land. So technically, that's how I also got acquitted, because I'm on my property. That's literally, it's like my apartment. I don't own the apartment building, but I'm leasing this space, and this is all my furniture in here. And so that's what led up to it. But no, right before the shooting, when me and the DJ pulled up, because see, they have been leaving notes in my office too. So it was like a lead up that I was able to prove. So like I would get to my office, I had these tables in front of my office, like leading up from the Drugs Inc. to the shooting. And they was like leaving, like one day I went out there to play some chess, because we would just sit outside my office. Feels like a cool day, just play chess. Somebody might even go get a 36 pack of beers or something, like if it was after my office hours. And they were leaving notes. So like I grabbed a note one day, I was playing chess, and it was like a piece of paper folded up. So mind you, we beefing. They're not supposed to be in my office at all. Because if I would have pulled up, it could have been a shooting or a fight then. But I'm finding notes in my office where they're calling me bitch ass nigga, snitch ass nigga, writing CMG, all on the tables and all this stuff. We like, what is this? So my staff started getting scared, my family. It became like a war. It's like all of the Bloods and the police versus me. And me and my little team of camo. So, we had a bunch of rappers. We had more of the not so gangster people rocking the camo, and the Crips who wanted peace, and the Bloods. But once the bangers started putting that squeeze on me, I mean, we can't fight. I can't fight 100 Damus. I can't do it. I'm not Luke Cage. I'm not that person. You know what I mean? I'm not Spider-Man. But yeah. So when we pulled up, not only had they been leaving notes in my office, there was a half-eaten rotisserie chicken with the knife, and they had a note that said, bitch ass nigga, snitch ass nigga. And I put the knife in my pocket, and I was kind of tripping like, is this for me? Is it not? They was all across the street laughing. I can hear him like, whoop, whoop, like he's over there. So I'm hearing them talking, and I'm with this DJ. So me and K-Tone, we moving equipment. So we move his speaker. He had like a big speaker like that one behind you. And I'm telling him, I got the knife in my pocket. He's doing his thing. He's on his phone. He's looking for chords. And I'm trying to tell him like, Tone, like the Damoose is tripping with me, bro. And like, what you talking about, man? Like, this your neighborhood. Like, man, come on, man. We got to get set up because we were running late. We were supposed to start at 6, but we running late. So I'm dealing with all of this. And I'm trying to tell him, he like, what is you talking about? So we setting up, and I'm like, bro, hey, these fools is really tripping. I don't even know if we can do this event. And I'm talking to K-Tone, Hassan and all these Damus just came on his bike. He was on his little bike, and they just came from both directions. They came from the east side of the building because we were behind that camouflage building. So they came from this side and from this side. And that's when I asked him, like, why are you doing this? Because first he was riding around in circles. I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Because I knew they was going to rush me. If it was the Bloods and the Crips from back in the 90s, oh, man, I ain't stupid. You know, I already knew we calling each other snitches. They leaving notes in my office. I just found this half-eaten rotisserie chicken with this knife on it with a note that says, bitch-ass nigga, snitch-ass nigga. I got this knife in my pocket. He's riding around on the bike snickering, all these damos. And they had my basketball. So a few weeks prior, because I had the courts up, and some of them brothers can hoop. These ain't kids. These is grown men. They dunking and everything. So like, T, let's get a basketball. So I gave them my basketball. So they came over there with my basketball. So they acting like they hooping, some of them. So they shooting the basketball. They surrounding me. And it's like 25 of them. They coming all around. You seen them. You seen who it was. Mm-hmm. And then it's like another 40, not all just Bloods, but it was like 40 Bloods, base heads, store owners. They at the hair salon, they all looking at me laughing. So I'm just looking around. I asked Hassan, I said, why you doing this to me? And he was like, on Bloods, you call me a snitch and you a snitch, we'll be over there in a minute. And I clarified with him. I'm like, on Bloods? You gonna come over here in a minute? He was like, on Bloods. So he still rode on his bike. K-Tone was like, oh, bro, they tripping. And there was another brother there who was cooking my food because I had like this guy, his name is Reggie. He had like this hot dog truck. Uh-huh. And so it was me, K-Tone, and Reggie standing there. It was like other people were coming. It's like everybody's coming. The Bloods is coming. The community's coming. And it was like right then, it's like Hassan was snickered. And he like went to go talk to these people in the truck or the van. And when he left off, I just beeline because I had my pistol because I knew it was funking. It could go down any second. I thought they was going to try to kill me in my car because I already knew they was going to get me. Because once you in the hat, you in the hat, bro. Ain't no coming out of that thing unless you just move away. You know what I'm saying? So I already knew they had already said they was gonna get me. Like word was on the street, they calling me a snitch. I'm wolfing to them. It's like, okay, well, it's up then. You know what I mean? But I had my pistol in the car because I didn't think they was gonna rush me or triple me at my peace rally. And so when he went to the truck, I went to go get my pistol.
And on the documentary, you could see him going to the van. Like, did you feel like he was getting a pistol or something? Or what was he doing at the van?
I couldn't see him.
Oh, so you didn't even know that he went to the van, or did you know he went to
I knew he went to go talk to somebody because he was like snickering. So when he pulled off, bro, as soon as like I could see him out the corner of my eye, but as soon as I seen him pulling off, and like all the other Bloods was kind of like, well, we gonna rush him or what? You know what I mean? They was kind of milling around, but I already knew he already told me what was up. I just walked to my truck. I just didn't even say nothing. I was thinking they was gonna get me before I got to my truck. Cause like I said earlier, if it was some of them Damus from the early 90s, I wouldn't even went to the Holly because they would have walked right over there to me and just smashed on me or killed me or something. But I kind of knew that, this generation, I don't want to diss the youth, but they just was a little different because we had an argument earlier that day where I smashed the cameras and I took my shirt off. And it was one of them old white cameras, but they was like, oh, you giving police footage from that camera? It was like one of them old white square cameras that used to be on the top of the mall. Cameras as big as these Sonys. You know what I'm saying? Like real cameras, like real security cameras nowadays. Right. So they knew those cameras. Them cameras was literally like 40 years old, bro. They knew they didn't work. It was pointing at the ground. It looked like a big gunner camera. And I had to knock it down with a sledgehammer. It was bolted into my building. But they was just clowning me, saying I was snitching. I gave Drugs Inc. footage from those cameras, which they weren't even working. Right. And I went and threw the camera down in front of them, and it was like 20 Damus in. I was like, shit, who wanna fade me? Like, and I started calling them all out one by one. So we had an argument earlier that day where he upped the knife on me. I went to IKEA, bought a bunch of furniture. We came back. I smashed the cameras, threw it down in front of them. It was like 20 young bloods and about 30 people across the street. I'm challenging them, yo, who want to get down with me? Nobody got down with me. I'm like, yeah, y'all some suckers. So I'm talking crazy. I'm pretty much back in gangbang mode, but I'm not gangbanging. I'm just acting mad. You know what I mean? I'm just being prideful. But it's my property because I have to be there. They don't have to be there because now most of them bloods from Park Hill ain't even from Park Hill. You don't even have to be from Park Hill to say you a blood no more. They got Germans over there. They got all kind of.
Not only your property, but you there trying to.
I'm just from the community. I didn't deserve to be called a snitch. I'm not a snitch, and why I got to be pushed out? What I do? And come to find out, bro, these older brothers work for the police. Hassan was working for the police. He was a snitch.
And this eventually starts to come out later. But
whole day we were arguing.
Happened.
That whole day,
the whole day y'all arguing.
The whole day we were
leading
arguing.
up to this moment.
I was gonna beat Hassan up earlier that morning. They was smoking Mamba. It was 9 o'clock in the morning because we were doing my peace rally, and I had the futsal soccer court, so we had a catchment fence. The catchment fence was like 10 or 11 feet, but a lot of the Latino and African kids, they be climbing on it, but it's not a fence. Like we had it up with like strong zip ties, so when you climb on it, if you heavy, it's gonna bust. It's gonna snatch it down. So we was always putting up the catchment fence. So I was like, man, we're gonna go early to put up the catchment fence. When we went early to put up the catchment fence that morning, I don't know if it was that same night, but they sitting at my gazebo. Mind you, that's my property. Y'all know y'all not supposed to be on here. Y'all leaving notes in my office calling me a snitch. We not rocking. So I'm fixing the fence. All these Damus, they go sit at the thing. They smoking Mamba, Spice, whatever you want to call it. I walk over there. I'm pleading with Hassan then. I'm like, bro, can we talk about this? And I'm carrying a ladder. I had a big old ladder, a big A-frame ladder, and I'm holding it in my hand. And he hopped up and flashed on me like, we taking all this. You a bitch. You a snitch. Like, nigga, fuck you. I'm like, really, Hassan? He like, yeah, what's up? And he hopped up. I'm like, I put the ladder down. I was about to go steal on him. And he upped the knife on me that morning. So then we go to IKEA. Brian Butler, my friend Kim, was like, come on, T, let's go. Because we had a standoff then. Even though he pulled the knife, I still was about to just go steal on him. Like, man, I should still just. So we was just staring at each other. Brian was like, come on, T, let's go, bro. Let's go. Like, let's go. And all the other bloods was sitting there at the table, like, shaking their head. Because we all knew each other. And a lot of them bloods didn't have a problem with me. So me and Hassan had another face-off. We go buy the IKEA furniture. We pay for it. When we come back, because they were delivering it when the shooting happened. We come back. Now it's like they had a B meeting on my court. So now it went from them at 9 a.m. We come back around noon, and it's a whole bunch of blood. So I knocked the cameras down. I threw it down. I walked over there. I had my shirt off. I'm like, who want to fade? None of them bloods accepted the fade. We leave. Brian comes and gets me again. Come on, bro. Let's get out of here, T. They're going to kill you. You're going to die today. So we leave. I go home. I take a shower. I pray with my head on the ground and everything, bro. I got on my knees. I put my head on the ground like, God, I just don't want to get hurt. I don't want to hurt nobody. Just let everything just go good. Just let everything go well. While I'm going over there, there's a little blood named Lil Thump. He's texting me, yeah, blood niggas is tripping. You said, you calling Munch a snitch and whoop-de-whoop-de-wham. And sure enough, I pulled up in the car. Oop. K-Tone pulled up. I seen a half-eaten rotisserie chicken with the note on it. I'm looking at it because it had a knife in it. I grabbed the knife, grabbed the greasy-ass note. I throw it on the ground. I put the knife, I fold the knife up. I put it in my pocket. We taking the stuff. I'm telling K-Tone. We trying to set up his speakers. They surround me. He tells me on bloods they're gonna give me. He beelines to the van or whatever because I couldn't really see. He was in the street on the other side of the camo building. I'm walking to my truck to get my gun so I could see him kind of in that distance. But when I was coming back from my truck, he was coming back from there. And I'm literally listening to him, so he didn't see me. I'm looking right at him because I'm walking back to where K-Tone is and the guy cooking my food. He's now coming back over there and he's talking to them. And he's like, shit, where's he at? And they're like, shit, he's right there. They're like, well, let's get him. And they started trying to collapse on me. But I'd already had my pistol. I went to my truck. I had already cocked my pistol and put it on my hip and I pulled my shirt down. because I wasn't just gonna start busting at them. I'm trying to do my peace rally. I didn't even know they were gonna.
Right, this is a peace
I
rally.
didn't even know they were gonna come from across the street. And whatever, y'all calling me a snitch, say that over there, homie. Because I'm not banging. I'm not about to go bomb on everybody who called me a snitch. That ain't I'm trying to be, but they pulled that out of me. You know what I mean? So not only did I hear him, not only did he threaten me, then I'm hearing their conversation. I'm in the midst of all of them. I'm standing here. I'm walking through them. And he like, shit, let's get him. And right when they try to collapse on me, I have my thing. And right when they seen me, they was like, oh, and they started trying to run. But at that time, it's already too late, bro. Once the thing's out, you know, the thing's somebody's getting aired out, bro. I can't fight 25 Bloods.
Right.
I try to be as tough as I can. I try to be strong, but I ain't that strong, man. I'm gonna just tell the world right now, I can't fight 25 Bloods. I'm not gonna act like I ever can. So I can't fight 2 blood. I can't fight 1 blood some days. So now, bro, they tried to rush me. They know it. Everybody up there knows it. They had a blood meeting. We had been arguing that day. We had been arguing all day. He already pulled a knife on me earlier that day. They know they left that knife there. They know they were leaving notes. They know he threatened me. They know they surrounded me. They know I was about to get rushed. I don't know why they keep acting like I'm lying or like I'm exaggerating. Everybody, K-Tone testified for me. He was standing there. Reggie was scared to testify for me because he had to be there. They would have probably killed him. But yeah, they came to get me and they were working for the police. They ran a COINTELPRO on me.
And so, like, even though you were found innocent, went to trial, on purpose, they offered you a deal.
They first offered me a 30. Then they offered me a 10 to 20. And I was like, nah, I'm cool.
You refused the deal.
Yeah, I refused it. It's on camera.
Yeah.
It's like, it's my property. Let's see what the juror. I only need 1 juror. Everybody needs to understand this. You only need 1 juror. Now it's a hung jury. They can charge. They keep trying you. Cool, try me again. I did. That's the.
But I say all of that to say it's still people in Denver that still feel like
they hate
you. You were wrong in defending yourself and protecting your life.
Nah, man. When I'm moving around Denver, going to some places, I have 2 armed undercover security guards with me, strapped. I have to, because anything can happen, any moment, anything.
Let's go to the trial. Why do you think during the trial the prosecution was so hung up on the knife and you throwing a knife down after you shot Hassan? What was the big deal about the knife?
I mean, let's be honest though, like, because they left it over there, but so after I done had to shoot him and everybody done ran, they doing the splits. It was a crazy scene. They diving over cars. Somebody did a belly roll up under a car. I'm watching all this going on. So when I'm walking up to him, so just so y'all know, I did not shoot. I said this erroneously because his uncle said this in the media. I didn't shoot Munch 5 times. All of my bullets that left the gun did not hit him, but since he had tubes and stuff in him, because he got shot in the chest, I shot him in the chest on the ground. But they're like, oh, he got shot 5 times. So like a dummy, I repeated that too. Oh, man, I shot a guy 5 times. That was about the biggest mistake I made. And this whole thing is me repeating that he got shot 5 times where he did not. So what happens when you see his body flop, he got nicked in the neck. But if you notice, he never wore trachea or nothing. He didn't get hit in the arms, in the back. He never got shot in the back. He got paralyzed because I shot him on the ground in the chest. Because when he got nicked in the neck, he was still, so he flopped down, boom, everybody was running, flopping and rolling. So I started walking up to him. I got my pistol out now. Now I'm walking over to him because he tried to run. So now he's like maybe 12 or 15 feet away from me. So I'm walking up to him. He turned over and was talking to me. It wasn't nothing wrong. It just nicked him, but he felt the nick and he flopped himself like, oh, I got hit. Boom. So he like dove. He like took a nosedive. Bam. And I seen him do it. So I'm walking over there to him and he's like, Blood. He's like leaning up. He's like, Blood, you stupid. Because some of the other domos, you could see him. Like they's like kind of coming to, they acting like they gonna shoot at me. So I'm walking over there to him and he's like looking around and he looked at me like, cause he thinking that they about to come rush me still or shoot back at me. So he's talking to me and I popped him again, boom. And he laid back, boom. And by this time I'm angry. So And I don't even know how, because I folded it up and put it in my pocket. So I don't even know how it got unfolded, because I seen it in the evidence. I don't know if the police unfolded it to put it there, or they kicked it or what, because it was a bunch of stuff that happened. But I took the knife out of my pocket and I hit him with it, bro. I was upset. But the reason why I could not say I hit him with it, because I was upset, because my attorney that you seen, Lisa, who called me like, hey, the verdict is in, because she thought I was going to lose. And I don't blame her for thinking that. She's now a judge. So shout out to Lisa. But she told me, she said, if you say that, so she told me, she said, if you say you hit him with that knife out of anger, I'm walking out of here, because you can't shoot somebody out of anger. Either you were afraid for your life or you were angry, you know? So yeah, at that time though, after the bullets first got shot, well, pretty much all the bullets was shot after that. I was pretty pissed off, and I hit him with the knife. I hit him in the face with it. Then he told me, he was like, I'm boo blood. Like I was like, I could see smoke. I could see smoke coming out of his mouth or his nose, and he was like, I'm boo blood. Please don't kill me. And I was talking. I was standing over him behind my pistol, and I'm like, I ain't gonna kill you, bro, but you're gonna lay there and shut the fuck up. That's exactly what I told him. And he said to me again, he was like, because he was jacked up after that, bro. I thought he was going to die. He was just like, I'm boo blood. Please don't kill me, T. And I said, I ain't going to kill you, bro, but like, you're going to have to lay there, homie. And I walked away, and I walked off, and I had my pistol out, and I'm looking back and forth. And by this time, all the domos, like, they was, and I didn't see a gun, but from some of the guys who, like, this one lady testified at my trial. She worked at the library that was there, and she said that she seen some guy with like a red sweater, like a big long handgun about to shoot back at me, but my gun's out. It don't matter if you got a bazooka and I got a deuce. Somebody got the drop on you, bruh.
Period.
You know, so I was waiting for one of them to try to up on me. Then the police pulled up on 33rd, and I didn't even see the police, because at this time the Bloods is acting like they're gonna shoot back at me. I got my pistol out, looking left and right, seeing who's gonna shoot first. The police come from behind that camouflage building where the Damus came from. They come from behind the building, and there's two of them, and they coming up, but they behind the crowd, because now it's people pushing with the Bloods who support me.
Right.
It's people who's pushing with who's with the Bloods. And the police is coming through the crowd, so I didn't see him at first. I'm like, put the gun down, put the gun down. And I got my gun out, and I'm looking for the Bloods to shoot back, and here come the police. So they bust through the crowd, so they coming up on me. And they're like, drop your weapon, drop your weapon. And for half a second, I'm thinking I'm about to have a shootout with the police, because I'm thinking they about to shoot at me. So I'm like, damn, now the police is about to shoot me. I'm not just going to let the police kill me. I got this pistol in my hand. So I was about to have a shootout with the police. Not because I'm crazy, but I'm thinking I'm going to have to shoot back at the police to save my life. And they told me to drop my weapon like 6 times, and I was just walking back and forth thinking like, damn, they about to shoot me. I'm going to have to shoot back at the police and explain it later. And it was like at that last second, it's like I just heard something in my head. I didn't hear an audible voice. I'm not crazy. But it was just something telling me in the back of my head like, boy, you got one more second to put that gun down, or they going to kill you, because you can't, you know, they had to drop on me, because even though I had my gun out, they had already had their guns pointed at my chest, and they was just walking up, like, put your weapon down. And I was just pacing back and forth. And I was just like, all right. I was like, all right. And I just put my gun down, and then they just walked up to me with their pistols, and I just went and got on my knees by myself and just put my hands behind my head, and they kicked the gun away and put the cuffs on me. Then they sat me on the curb, and then that's when you see all the Damus, because now they back. Now they see the police got me. I'm on the curb. So they started trying to get me. The cop had to pull the gun on the dude, and they put me in the police car, and shit, the Blood tried to rush the police car. They had to speed me out of there in the police car. They was gonna beat me up in the police car.
The shooting happens, you're arrested.
Yeah.
Now you facing first degree assault, attempted murder.
Mm-hmm.
Hassan is paralyzed. It even got to the point where the DA wanted to add habitual criminal to the charges, would eventually mean you would be facing 100 years.
I was actually facing more than 100. So they put that in the doc. I was facing over 100 years. So I was actually facing like 240, because in Colorado, we call it the big bitch and the little bitch. If it's your third felony, so in California, it's 3 strikes. But Colorado is habitual criminal, which is a little bit different. You still maxed out. Because with the habitual criminal, if you get found guilty of your third consecutive felony for like a similar charge, whatever the maximum is on your sentence, like if you get a 12, they times it times 3. So if you get a 12, it's 36. But if it's your fourth felony, you get a 12, that's 48. If you get 50 times 4, that's 200 years. If you get 50 times 3, and I had already had felonies. I had already been caught with a Mac 11. I had already been to the penitentiary. I had got caught with a shank in the penitentiary. So that right there, that was a felony. They gave me 2 years for that. I got 6 years for my Mac 11. I had a menacing with a shotgun. I had a lot of violence and weapons cases. But I had a previous offender with a handgun case for the shooting with Hassan. They dismissed it. My case is case law. So when I was exonerated for the attempted murder and the first degree assault, they didn't show it in the documentary. But before they let me walk out of there, like I got up, I hugged my investigator. I was just hugging who was close. It was like, hold up. My jurors wrote a note because it's called bifurcation. Because we knew I had a chance to beat the shooting, but we didn't know what was going to happen with my weapons case. I offered myself a 2 to 6 for my weapons, but the state was like, nah, we know we're going to get them on this. The feds could have picked it up. The feds are not going to pick your case up unless the state drops the charges in the feds. You can't get double jeopardy. But the state was like, nah, we want this case. We know we got him. I was like, man, I told my lawyer, tell him I'll do a 2 to 6 on the gun. I had it in my hand. The police said I shot somebody. It's not a who done it, it's a why done it. We know I did it, right? I'm admitting to it.
Right.
But when I beat the first degree assault and the attempted murder, they had a little huddle at the judge's whatever you call that thing, the booth or whatever that thing is.
Where he sit.
Where the judge sit?
Chambers or something.
Yeah, but my jurors had said, when we go for the bifurcation hearing for the weapons, we're going to find him not guilty because we seen if he didn't have his weapon, he would have for sure have been at least assaulted and possibly killed because people testified that they seen Bloods with big pistols hiding behind cars waiting to shoot back at me. So they dismissed my weapons case. So, and this is for everybody listening, even for me right now, I'm running for mayor and everything, but if I just get caught rolling around with a gun, I'm still a previous offender. It's totally different from what happened in that incident. They can still charge me. All those charges apply. But if somebody is threatening your life, so your life supersedes any law, you have a constitutional right to defend your life. Doesn't matter if you're a felon. If I'm writing notes saying, oh, Edie's a snitch, and I'm threatening you, and you're like, yo, nah, I'm T's. Yo, this brother's calling me a snitch. What's up with T? And you're like, I don't know. And you got to strap up, and I come and assault you, and you get me. You can invoke state of Colorado versus Terrance Roberts. I was totally acquitted because you can't invoke. Now, the DAs or lawyers or defense attorneys, they invoke cases where someone's either been found totally innocent or totally guilty. That's what they base case law off of. If it was not a conviction or if no one was found innocent,
right,
there's no argument there, but they'll say, hey, this person was found guilty or innocent because of these or these factors. But my weapons case was dismissed, but I was totally acquitted of the attempted murder and the first degree assault. And they had to pretty much dismiss my weapons case because I was found to use it lawfully in defense of my life. Whether I'm a felon or not doesn't mean you could just come kick my head in or murder me and call me a snitch and I'm not a snitch. You don't have a right to do that just because of mistakes I made years prior. And that goes for everybody in America. Your life supersedes the law. If you have a driving under revocation and your girlfriend's choking, or even if your dog is dying and you driving and the LAPD pull you over and you got a driving under revocation, they might still charge you. But if you're in defense of your life or the life of others, then you have a right to self-defense or to defend somebody else. And that's what happened.
And during the trial, Hassan didn't even testify against you. Why do you think he didn't?
Well, so because Hassan had already murdered this baby. Because after I shot him, he murdered this baby. She had cigarette burns on her. They tortured this little girl. And it wasn't just him. It was other little damus who was in this little pack. I don't know who did what to what, but they had to be seeing this happening. But let the mom tell it. He told her, if you're not home by 4:30, because the baby was sick, crying, just irritating him. He's in the wheelchair. I've shot him. He's under all this pressure. He tells the mom, if you're not home by 4:30, I'm killing the baby. He said this. This is what the mom claims. She got home at 4:35. She said her baby was dead on his lap. So I guess he hit her stomach or her abdomen like with his fist and ruptured her stomach. Same thing that kind of happens to me from getting shot, but I ended up having emergency surgery.
Right.
She didn't, and she died. And if he would have lied on me, because he was calling me a snitch, they did try to assault me. And if he would have got on the stand and lied about assaulting me or trying to assault me when I had witnesses that I was being assaulted, then how you gonna go defend yourself for killing this baby and you just perjured yourself testifying against Terrance? And plus all the Bloods were putting pressure on him like, oh, you can't, even though, I don't think they knew that he was working for Dominique Salinas actually until this documentary came out. Because Dominique Salinas testified for Hassan in another drive-by shooting where they put up those barriers in the Holly, the little Crip brother, or I don't even know if he was a Crip or what, I guess he was affiliated. He said that he knew it was Hassan because Hassan's a very distinctive looking person. His teeth, his face, they knew each other. Everyone knows each other. You know your rivals growing up. But he beat that case because Dominique Salinas said he was on the phone with him. And he was found not guilty, but these people swear up and down, no, man, that was Hassan. Ain't no one stupid. So after I shot him and he recovered, he was still in a wheelchair, but they was just putting him up in the front seat of the car, paralyzed, and they was driving him around town and he was just tagging everybody up. He was just dumping the whole clip all over town.
Still active.
They shot at my dad and everything. Mm-hmm. They shot at my dad.
Which is on the dock.
Yeah, they shot at my dad and his neighbors over 40 times. They didn't put this on the dock, but also when they pulled off from shooting my dad, there was another young brother who was riding a bike and they shot at my dad. And then they shot out the other window and shot him 6 times on the bike. That's just not in the documentary. So yeah, it was a lot. My whole family was at war with the Park Hill Crenshaw Mafias. It was the Park Hill Crenshaw Mafias versus the Roberts family. And not all my family has my last name, but it was pretty much me and my family versus the Crenshaw Mafia Bloods. The Park Hill Crenshaw Mafias, actually, not the LA Crenshaw Mafias. But there's a difference.
Do you ever, sit and say to yourself, like just peep the irony that you're a former Blood and most of this drama and this shit was happening with other Bloods?
Man, so
because for me, it's one of the ironies of gangbanging.
Nah, man, do you think I don't think about that? You think my feelings don't get hurt sometimes just to think everything I did? Man, waking up in that hospital, man, with that zipper on my stomach and just loving the Bloods like I did, man. My granny, feeding my grandmother owned A&A Fish Market. It was a soul food restaurant. So really her house, we called it the launch pad. We either called it the launch pad or the honeycomb hideout. That was where all the killer bees, all the damus came to my granny's house. And she would have catfish that didn't nobody eat. So she would have catfish dinner. She just throw it in the microwave. Man, we had French fries. She used to go to, back then it was, I don't know, now it's Costco and all that, but it was Big Box or something back then. It's just Costco. But she'd go get all these Tootsie Rolls and all this stuff just to feed me, right? I'm her grandson. I'm banging out of control. She just trying to keep me out the streets. But of course, all the homies, she's working 15 hours a day. So all the homies is coming over. They eating the food. I ain't tripping on no old catfish, man. Eat them Tootsie. We homies, nigga. We damus. This is blood. Man, my family fed the Bloods. We grew the Bloods out of my granny's house for my generation, which was really the generation that grew the damus. The damus before us, they was in prison. The Park Hill could have been a Crip. There's a lot of Crips in Park Hill. The main war in Denver in the 90s was how many Crips was living in Park Hill and us having to go to war with them to push them out to solidify Park Hill as being a Blood community. We did all that from my grandma's den, man, in living room, and all my incarceration. So the fact that they started calling me a snitch, and even right now, man, if I have to have armed security, it's no Crips are really tripping on me. No Crips, they know I'm not gangbanging. I haven't been a Blood for over 20 years. It's mainly because of what those Bloods are saying about me. I might run into some of them. That's I have to have armed security for the gang that I literally built. And it affects my psyche sometimes, but I'm not sad about it. It's whatever. And I'm not trying to act tough, but if it's war, it's war. You know, like I gotta survive out here. I'm not leaving town. My kids are in Denver. My work is in Denver. I believe I'm gonna be the next mayor of Denver. It's a really good chance. So I'm there. You know, so I'm from Denver. CMG is not. You know, it's from Inglewood. Shout out to the Inglewood CMGs. I don't have no problem with no Bloods or nothing. Yeah, but don't call me a snitch and put your hands on me. Hands off. That's it. That's not being tough. I'm a man before I'm anything. And that was what I was standing on, and I still stand on that. You know, so there's an irony to it. It definitely is. But I'm here for it. It's whatever. There's a lot of ironies in my life.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to a couple of more because there is a lot of ironies.
I'm here for it. What's
life.
up?
It's truly an amazing story. But after the trial, and you're found innocent, went to trial, beat him, fair and square. Even during the trial, I thought it was interesting how close they had you and Hassan. Like when they brought him into court, they like almost in a weird kind of way, it's like they thought you might, you know, try to jump on him or something and really sink yourself. They was trying to like use him as bait. It seemed like. It's
a lot of little things where they keep. I do feel like there's a lot of things still, especially with my campaign, where they try to like bait anger out of me, because that's really my. I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, I believe in violence if somebody's hurting you. I'm not Martin Luther King. I'm not Jesus. Keep it real with you. To read your Bible, Jesus, you see what he did with that whip? Hit somebody with a whip nowadays, you're going to get a first-degree assault like you shot him. So do I believe in unnecessary violence? No. If somebody's raping you and you stab them or you bite them, that's violence. If you have to defend yourself, I do believe in self-defense. Read your Quran. Read whatever. Like, read the law.
That's one of the first lessons you learn as a child.
As a child, what your mama tell you?
Put your hands on, you better hit them back.
I'm not out here punching on no one.
Right.
And nor am I tripping on everybody calling me a snitch or this or that, because I know I'm not. But when it gets to the point where I think you're going to use that to try to bring harm to me or you're attacking me, then I got to defend myself. But yeah, like them bringing him that close to me, they could have did that differently. Just a lot, them calling me a snitch, a lot of things. It's not just about just attacking me. It's really about bringing anger out of me and bringing me out of character, making me assault somebody, making me look like I'm out of control or I'm emotional. And I know the tricks. I've fallen for it a couple of times too, you know. But
because you and your dad got into it on the dock as far as your Facebook posting.
Yeah,
you know how you was getting at the DA and everybody, and
that's why they charged me with habitual criminal. And that's what I was saying to Pops, man. And you know, Pops, every time you see my Pops, if you notice, he was on my right-hand side. You didn't see no big old ex-Bloods or no security. You see my 60-something-year-old dad, man. That was who my bodyguard was, my father. But well, like I was telling him, so what if I'm on Facebook? That's no reason to charge me with habitual criminal. Like, I could get on Facebook if I want. Just like I told him. I could get on Vlad TV if I want. Where's the crime in that? Now, if I'm lying, okay, produce the facts. And I don't have to lie. But I'm not committing a crime right now, especially for you to, I got attacked. We got the evidence from the DA's office. That's the police halo camera where we got the footage from. They gave us their own footage for me to say, yeah, look, this is what happened. And my witness was like, yeah. So yeah, Pops was just concerned for me because I'm being inflammatory and insightful. They calling me snitches. I'm putting up paperwork. I'm like, yo, by this time, man, we in Nexus Lexus. We in it now. Oh, boom, here goes so-and-so's paperwork. Other Bloods are sending me paperwork. Yo, blast this on them, T. I fell off into all that. Hey, now it's a snitch war. Who's snitching? Now everybody's snitching. You know?
I was about to
I'm
say,
snitching
man,
on the snitches.
I'm glad you brought it up because even in hip hop, not snitching or no snitching has always been a hot button topic. You even have several artists who have cooperated with law enforcement to get better deals or to get out of jail. In your opinion, is law enforcement at play in hip hop, COINTELPRO? And what's your thoughts on not snitching or no snitching as well?
So I'm going to answer the first question about brothers who's in the hip hop world testifying.
Yeah.
I mean, we got different examples. So this is my thing about snitching. If you go shoot somebody and the little old lady see it, or somebody who's even the young brother, something, they ain't a blood or a crip, or they not from the outlaws or nothing, like they ain't pushing that. Yo, I'm Hussein Fatal. Like, oh, like if they ain't pushing the gangster, they're a civilian. Matter of fact, why you go shoot somebody in front of this old lady anyways? Because she's dumb. Because she's a citizen. She's gonna snitch. She's not snitch. She's gonna talk about it. That's somebody's mom. Like, the Italian mob knew better. The Mexican mafia knows better. But a lot of violence in the African American, Latino communities come from youth mainly. It's not 40, 50-year-olds doing drive-bys. You can't even be from the Italian mafia till you in your 30s. But if you African American, by the time you 35, bro, if you doing a drive-by, it's like, sit your ass down, homie. You probably the police, homie. You 35 with these kids shooting out a car, what? So if you pushing that gangster line and you testifying, now I know there's stuff with like Cowboy and what happened with Nip and all that. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not pushing the gangster line. I'm admittedly a citizen now. So I could see, I could see his point of argument. I could see how some solid 60s and some Damos, it's like, nah, bro, we don't do that. But then the same people talking crap about Cowboy, man, every gang got somebody with paperwork. Every hood they got somebody with a snitchuation. And we call it a snitchuations in Denver. There's some snitchuations. It's like, oh, he a rat. No, he ain't a rat. Well, so-and-so. So it's always some of that now. Back when I was banging, man, when I was a blood, you couldn't show up if you shot, if a Crip shot you and we was at a house party and the Crip got somebody on the phone, was like, yo, that fool, I shot your homeboy. He snitched on me. And we had the evidence. You couldn't even snitch on who shot you because we getting DP. The whole party's over, fool. Like, now it's all kind of weird situations. I think if you a gang members need to I'm an anti-violence activist, but I'm gonna make a statement like, where's the real Bloods and Crips? What happened? What happened to them? Because that's who calls my phone. Not the Bloods, who's an activist. I'm a Blood and an activist. So I'm flamed up, on my red bandana, but I'm kind of doing great with the police. And it's just lightweight snitching. It's just a little bit of snitching. No. If you crippin', you crippin'. Like, do I need to explain what crippin' means? I shouldn't have to. It's not working for law enforcement. I don't think everyone working with grid is a snitch. I don't think that. I don't think that anyone who's still a Crip or Blood who's an activist is a rat. I'm just telling you to answer your question. In my mind, the reason why I have to stop gangbanging, because I take those types of things too literal. Like, if you a Damu, homie, why you even on Instagram? That's how my mind works. You on Instagram, fool? I know that's not a pistol, but just keep scrolling. Let me get out of here before I say something or get to thinking something. Because my mind was, if I was still show business, I'm not on no social media, bro. We're not working with no activists. We cooking dope. We slapping hoes. We popping brews. We probably about to go put in some work or something, homie. We gotta, somebody's in the hat. It's work to do, bruh. Or we ain't a gang. And nobody's bigger than the program. And that's why I'm not a Blood no more. That's why I left that. Cause I don't want to be, man, if it's your job to kill every snitch or slap every person upside the head, you're gonna be a busy person, man. You're gonna end up now the snitches run the community, bro. Like, you can't even press that line no more, man. You the odd man out, like literally. And that's not just in Denver. And this is no disrespect to none of the Blood and Crip gangs. They know what I'm saying. The solid ones know what I'm saying. There's so many informants now and child molesters and so many people with smut on their name. If you try to press that line, you be working. That's all you be doing all day. You have a to-do list as long as your leg, So I just think if you claim you gangbanging and you in the streets, I shouldn't have to say, man, if you working with the law, you a rat, brother. Like, or leave the gangs. African Americans, man, we are forgiving people, and we're actually a loving people. Man, there's so many examples of somebody who's not a Crip no more, or Blood no more, or even if you loosely affiliated, but you going to the mosque, you going to the church, or you just doing positive things. Man, ain't nobody tripping on that. You don't have to work for the police, and that's okay. But to answer your question, if you saying you gangster and you affiliated with the law, I mean, come on, bro, you telling. I don't care if you get ran over by a car or you in a wheelchair. If you seen Lil Jimmy run you over and you used to hoop with him and you know that's him, hey, get in your wheelchair and you don't talk to the police. You do what gangsters do, or that's not what you are. So it's like, in my mind, is you or ain't you?
Right.
You know? That's why I stay away from it, bro, because that's a lot
Talk
of
about
pressure.
how you felt when you were found not guilty for shooting Hassan. Like,
man, I was surprised. I'm gonna be honest.
you didn't think he was gonna.
I didn't know, cause I had the pistol. I didn't know I didn't know. I thought I was man. So if you look at that documentary, when I'm going down the stairs, like when I'm running from, look at my shoes. Pause it. I had on some Nikes. I didn't have I had my suit jacket. I was like, man, if I'm guilty, I'm guilty. I put on some Nikes because I was thinking, like, if I got found innocent, because every Blood and Crip, some of them snitches got power. Even though they're snitches, but they got nephews and little Pyrus and Damus, and they waiting for me to come in there. And this other Bloods and Crips was like, no, it's a big war. When my name comes up in Denver, it's either love or hate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking if I did get found guilty, they're going to put me in the tank. Because, yeah, if you guilty for shooting somebody, you see the sheriff standing right behind me.
Mm-hmm.
There was full of sheriffs in there. So I'm thinking if I get found guilty, I'm definitely not going into the tank with my church shoes on, trying to convince some jurors I'm looking innocent who done already made their decision. Decision's made. So I threw on my Nikes. I had on my vest, but I didn't even put on my suit jacket. I'm like, whatever they say is what they say. But now I needed them Nikes to run down them stairs. I was. There's a piece of me that was surprised because it could have went either direction. Because I did shoot him. And I did hit him with the knife in the face. And it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I had a pistol. But now it all worked in my favor. Thank God for cameras. That was one. I'm a perfect example of your haters make you greater. So
100%, man. And you get through all of that.
Yeah.
Found not guilty. Self-defense. And then the Elijah McClain incident happens where he was unjustly murdered by the police. This is 2019 or 2020?
2019.
This is 2019.
He got killed 2019. George Floyd got killed 2020.
Right. It was 2019. And when did you do the protest, though? What year was that?
So there was like a little lead up because I left activism. After I became a home inspector. I went to school. I started doing radon gas mitigation.
Okay, so you completely.
I had to leave Prodigal Son because my budget was like $350,000. I can't raise no money and I'm looking at life in prison. I done shot this young man. He rolling around town shooting everybody. And I can't stop a war now. The Damus is hitting back. The Crips is, because the Bloods went on like a little killing spree. So they started killing all these young Crips and they killed some people who wasn't even Crips that looked like Crips. Then the Crips started hitting back and started killing them. And that's how some of them young brothers you see in the dock, they ended up getting killed because they was going back and forth every day. I became a home inspector, bro. I was like, I'm done with activism. I retired, bro. So Nipsey Hussle got killed here in LA. When Nip passed, some of the brothers I had already worked with some activists here in Los Angeles. I had did some work in Watts. I'm getting calls from LA. Bloods and Crips in Denver was like, oh man, they getting together in LA. They at the Marathon shop right now. They got 8 trays up there, Damus. What we gonna do in Denver? I'm like, everybody's calling me. I'm like, why don't y'all do something? They're like, man, you already know, T. You the guy, you know? So I call some of the usual suspects, man. Gerald, some of the Crips, some of the Raymonds from Denver, some of the Trades, Rolling 30, some other Damus. Because Denver got other blood gangs too, Deuce Nines. You know, they got dog posses, all these blood gangs and all this Crips. And I just kind of hit everybody up and I told them, let's meet at the park. I didn't even have a plan. We met at the park one day And this was based off of Nipsey. This is my introduction back into activism. Then we met at the park. We met at Delmar Park. It's a park in Aurora. It was like maybe 150 Bloods and Crips, ex-Bloods and Crips activists. And we just chilled, man. Everybody just kind of was smoking bud, drinking, chilling. Then I was like, shit, let's do it next week. And we made a flyer. My homeboy, he's actually Eritrean. He runs a street fraternity. His name is Yoel, but Yoel, he from street fraternity, he donated $1,000. Other people, we all chipped in our own money, and we bought a bunch of turkey legs and got the bouncy castle. We went to City Park in Denver, which is mainly west of Carl Boulevard, where the Denver Crips, that's kind of more their territory. We had some OG Denver Crips, OG J Love from Rolling 30s, Gerald. Bunch of people, man, helped us organize it, and showed the Park Hill Bloods and the Rolling 30 Crips and the Raymonds and the Hordens and all kind of bunch of other Denver families or gangs. We just met at City Park. We just got together. We had 2 rules: no fighting in the park because the kids is gonna be there, and if you're scared, don't come. So that was the rules. There was probably 200 guns in the park. I don't even know, but we got together, man, and that was me coming back into activism. Was after Nipsey got killed, and we just kind of we call it Heal the Hood. So that was the movement. We had the Camel movement, but the umbrella of the Camel movement was the Heal the Hood movement. And we did a Heal the Hood event. Then after that, I was going to lay low again. I was like, all right, we cool. We passed the Nipsey thing. I'm not trying to be back into gang activism because eventually somebody is going to call me a snitch. It's going to come up. You shot the homie. It's going to be another incident. So I wasn't really trying to get back into that frame. But when Elijah McClain got killed in 2019, some of my family members were helping organize it. Then his family, most of his family is actually from Park Hill. Some of them are Bloods, and I grew up with them, the McClain family. But then his mom and his dad actually had grown up around Crips. So I didn't really know his mom or dad. And I didn't know him. I never had met him. Or George Floyd. I never met Breonna Taylor. But when he got killed, everybody's like, because, when I get that bullhorn, I'm with it. That bullhorn was the same way I was with my gangbang, and I really got serious about my revolutionary actions, and they called me, and I was like, if I get involved, you already know we gonna go up because we're gonna do it all night if we got to. And they was like, yeah, that's what we're looking for.
And it went up. It went up so much to the point that the Denver police again had an issue with you.
Now they arrested me for rioting. They gave me 2 more felonies. They gave me 12 misdemeanors for rioting, destruction of government property, commandeering a highway. They made up some charges. So they made up stuff and turned them into misdemeanors. And I had 2 felony writing, but we were surrounding the police station, man. We surrounded, like July 3rd, we called it APD, which is Aurora Police Department, because they operate like a down south southern racist. They operate like the LAPD of Bill Bratton days, you know what I mean? They just racist. They don't care. They put your baby on the hot concrete with a pistol to your baby's head. They was doing anything racist they could, disrespectful. City council once. So Elijah McClain, he died saying, "I can't breathe." We got the city council and the city attorney in Aurora wearing "I can breathe." That's when we really went up, when they wore those "I can breathe" shirts, just mocking them. And that's like gangbanging. That's like crossing the wheel. Like, what? Like, oh, y'all want to disrespect? Because now we in our feelings, and we doing this for this young man who was brutalized for 15 minutes. George Floyd had a knee on his neck for almost 9 minutes. Elijah McClain was brutalized and beaten for 15 minutes. They shot him up with ketamine. We got the police on the recording talking about, "He's reaching for your gun, dude." He clearly wasn't reaching for his gun. He was begging for his life. He didn't do nothing wrong. He was wearing the same mask that we were forced to wear a few months later by law because of COVID. They said he looked sketchy. They just beat him to death. That was just a straight lynching. So, we going up. I know the family's crying. We started off with 7 of us. It was 7 of us for Elijah McClain, and it ended up being, then it became 25, then it became 50, but nobody cared. It's just Aurora, Colorado. See, now it's on Vlad TV. Now the Holly's out. But at that time, man, it's all kind of stuff going on in Seattle, Portland, Denver. If it ain't LA or Chicago or New York or a bigger media market, man, it's all kind of stuff going on. But nobody cared. We never knew Elijah McClain was going to blow up like that. So we wrote, I drafted, me and some other people from my organization drafted the Elijah McClain police accountability bill. And we took it to lawmakers. They laughed it off. This was in November 2019. So we just doing these events for Elijah, going up to the police station, blowing smoke in their face. We getting drunk, we partying. We just was like every Saturday, a party at the police station, or we pop up on a Wednesday and it'd be like 100 of us or something. And we just being disruptive. They putting up fences, standing there. And we was like, we just gonna cost them money. Shoot, it don't cost us nothing to have a party on their front lawn and tear their lawn up. So after George Floyd got killed, and it was COVID, because they locked us down for COVID. And after that happened, it went up, man. Like, we ended up having like 10,000 people downtown in Denver. Everybody came, all these organizations. My daughter hit me up about it initially, like, yo, Dad, what's up with this thing with George Floyd? You know, shout out to my daughter, Trinity. But Trinity was the one who first hit me up, like, yo, what's up with this? I'm like, shoot, let's get involved. Let's go. I contacted some of the other organizations, like, yo, I'm coming down there with my daughter, and I'm telling other people. So all of us kind of got together. We had this big crowd downtown. So then we started having thousands of people downtown every day. And then that's when we went to all the media that were covering us. And we went to them and said, yo, we know what happened to George Floyd. It was really bad. But we got a George Floyd here in Colorado. You know what I'm saying? Named Elijah McClain. And I organized an event called The Blackout. Me and different people, my organization became the Frontline Party for Revolutionary Action, FPRA. And our colors were the African liberation colors, red, black, green, yellow. And the Latinos that were with us were either wearing the Mexican flag, Puerto Rican flag, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But our base colors were the African liberation colors, and whatever flag you want. You know what I mean? It's similar colors anyway. So it's going to be red, green, whatever. And yeah, we just started showing up with the camouflage bandanas, because the camo movement's always been in effect. Everything I do, I incorporate the camouflage. We had the camouflage with the African liberation colors, and we just got the flags and we made the signs. Shout out to Cristobal Guevara. Cristobal Guevara made the signs by hand, and we just showed up. We got some bullhorns, and I was making flyers on my cell phone, some Canva flyers. I'll make a Canva flyer like Time's Up, APD. That became our movement. Time's Up, APD. It was like, Time's Up. Where's the charges? And then we started pushing that Time's Up. We started putting the police's face on our shirts. And we just show up. We had a Time's Up shirts with the police face. And we put enough pressure on them to not only get Senate Bill. So the Elijah McClain Police Accountability Bill became Senate Bill 217 after George Floyd was murdered. We got that passed into law, which was the first police accountability bill in the nation. The second big municipality that adopted it was actually New York City. And there's also another youngster who got murdered by an African-American correctional officer. His name is Alexis Mendez Perez. We were protesting for Alexis too. And it was like, he got killed by a black officer, but we supposed to be protesting white police. Be like, no, we protesting all police violence. You know what I mean? So we started doing it for Alexis Mendez Perez. And we just took it local. We got George Floyd's and Breonna Taylor's right here in Denver. And it got big, man. And then we started really banging with the police. Some people got shot at one of our protests on the highway. Some white dudes tried to smash through us with his big Jeep Rubicon. PSL Denver was with us. It was a big thing. Some people tried to shoot at them and shot a couple people. We was having scuffles with the Proud Boys. We was breaking up big pro-Trump police rallies. And to shut me down, they gave me fictitious charges.
Which... we were facing 24 years, but the charges were dropped a year later.
Yeah, because they were fictitious. They only did that because, man, literally, if I made a Canva flyer on my cell phone and blasted it, 500 people, 1,500. That's just on a regular day. Who knows? We didn't even know. We just like, yo, show up at the police station. It might be 1,000 people. It might be 600 people. You know, and we have other organizations. So our thing was, y'all do y'all's flyer to attract y'all's crowd. Because, you know, we had young white kids, Latino organizations. Then for the people who grew up in Denver, African Americans who listen to me, I did our flyers on my cell phone. And man, we sent those flyers out. It could be 10,000 people. We didn't know. So in order for them to shut down that movement, they did the same COINTELPRO they did on me in the Holly, because that was a counterintelligence operation. Not only did they run on me in the Holly, but they did the same thing to me again after Elijah McClain, Alexis Mendez Perez, and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were murdered. In 2019 and 2020, they ran another COINTELPRO on me.
And failed again.
It failed again. I'm not a perfect person, but I'm a righteous brother, man. I move with integrity.
We were off camera and we were talking, about your journey. And I wanted to ask you, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you there? What keeps you fighting for your hood, for your city? And now you're about to run for mayor. I'm running for mayor,
yeah.
Tell us, man. Tell the people what keeps you going. What's the battery in your back? Does it ever need charging, or is you just on go all the time?
I mean, hip hop. What? I mean, if I could do it for the Bloods, Tupac, Martin Luther King, the same thing. It's nothing. It don't stop. So okay, I've been abused by some of my homies. Even if I was still a Blood, I was fighting Bloods when I was a Blood. I was putting in the most work I could, and I'll still have to scrap. That didn't detour me then. I've been drugged through the mud by my own community, by the police, the media. But I was getting drugged through the mud, man. Go do 12 years in the pen. You're going to catch some phase if you're serious. And I was fighting, man. This is much easier to me than fist fighting a 225-pound Crip any day. Trust me, I've been there too many times. But I love my people, man. I really do. I love my people. I became a Blood because I love Park Hill, man. I really do love Denver. I love Park Hill. Just growing up there, those are my memories. It's a certain kind of energy. It has like a West Coast, like on a good day in Denver, on a good sunny summer day, man, you feel like you in Los Angeles, man. Like we just missing the palm trees.
I've been to Denver a few times,
man. And it's just popping.
City.
Just my love for my community, what I see happening to Black people, man, the gentrification. And I say this all the time, even if I was a white man, I'd be doing what I'm doing, brother, because we are nomadic people. We're displaced. We call it gentrification. No, we're displaced. There's a displacement happening to us. And I'm sad to see it, brother. So, I mean, just because I don't want to do it no more, don't mean it's gonna stop. I like doing the work. As much abuse as I've gotten, I'm having a great time too, brother. Like, it's hard running for mayor, man. I've had to get off the plane from New York City and literally go right to my house and take a shower and put on a suit. And I had 3 debates that day and a meet and greet that night. And man, my feet, I couldn't even walk the next day. I put my feet on the floor. I was walking like this to go brush my teeth. My feet were just swollen. I used to do that as a Blood. I sell dope for days. For days. I wouldn't go home. I'd be musty. So I always think if I could do it for that energy and for that spirit, for my people and for Park Hill, I could definitely, man, I could hang in there, because it's not easy, man. Trust me, if you come against the police, they are a very powerful force. And if you're getting results, they're going to come for you. You might end up getting killed, because there are Bloods and Crips and different gangs that are working for law enforcement. And some of these law enforcement officers, it ain't about being a snitch. They're gang members and they're straight police officers, and they're tough. They're from, they've been to Iraq. They've been to Afghanistan. They grew up in Chicago. They grew up in New York. They tougher than the gangs. They'll fade you. They'll take off the badge and fade you if you get to talking too much, and they won't tell. And they're working out, and they with it. They got women. They smoke weed. They do all the stuff. They from the hood, so
and
that's the battle.
I'm glad you said that, man, because I was gonna ask you, when you win,
yeah,
and you're the new mayor of Denver, how would you handle police brutality, indoor shootings and killings as the mayor of Denver?
Yeah, so, and like I said earlier, I'm not against anybody. However, I'm for my people. That's why I'm running for mayor. I'm not running for mayor to kiss the police ass. And that's fine. Hell, you got police suing the police. You got Black and Latino police calling their own departments racist. But if I call you racist, now you want to have some informants kick my head in. No, there's racism there. Let's be honest. There's no entity is perfect, including the police. That's why we drafted Senate Bill 217. Because I'm going to tell the world this. I'm tired of pumping the bullhorn. We need a whole nother COVID and a whole nother George Floyd for us to get that kind of people power we got in 2020. People power is the best power. But if you can't get 10,000 people in downtown LA, you'll show with 100 people, they'll laugh at you. Your own black people will laugh at you like, how many people Idi Amin had there? He's a goofy.
We quick to clap.
Yeah, exactly right.
Before we support.
Unfortunately, man, it's going to take a lot to have that kind of power. I've been an activist now 20 years, brother. Even when I was in the pen, so over 20 years, I was doing activist work, shutting down riots in prison. Just pumping that bullhorn. There's a time when it's very powerful, like 2020, and that documentary was great. But I can't, I'm telling you right now, I can't get 10,000 people for sure. I'll be lucky to get 100 people downtown. I got thousands of supporters, but they're not going to go surround a police station with me or take over no highway. They might check my name off. But when I be like, yo, we doing the highway thing, I can't show up. Not for the highway, T, not no more. So we've drafted police accountability laws to where it's not about if I'm mayor or not. If you shoot somebody or you put the carotid chokehold on somebody or you take your body cam off, you don't have qualified immunity. You can't be able to break the law claiming that you upholding the law. That's the whole point of having law. Nobody's above the law. That's what we say in the gangs. Everybody in gangs say, hey, nobody bigger than the program. Why? Because if one person's bigger than the program, you don't have a gang no more. You just got that person, and that's your leader, you up under their program. If nobody's bigger than the program, if gang members who are children and young men and traumatized people and women understand this, why don't the police understand this? You're supposed to serve and protect us. You're professionals getting paid to do this job. You chose to do this job. Not because of poverty, not because your parents were fed crack through the Iran-Contra scandal, not because you got to survive in a war zone in New York and Denver or LA or Chicago. You chose to be a cop, but you get to kill somebody and you got qualified immunity because you had a bad day, really because you mad because your baby mama dished you because you were a cop and hung up in your face. And now you done killed somebody. You done took it out on Tyree Nichols because you jealous and you sending pictures of him. But you're going to beat the case to DA. Oh, we're not going to charge him because of this or that. Nah. The same pit you dug for somebody else, now it's time for you to fall in that pit. And that was our reasoning in drafting that law. So when I am the mayor, it's not going to be me having to beef with the police. That's between them and the prosecutors. If you kill somebody unrighteously, not only am I going to stand with that family because they deserve justice, I'm not going to be out here disrespecting Bloods and Crips about killing black people and doing harm. But now I'm running for mayor and I'm vouching for the police who murdered another black person. And that's what's happening with politics. That's why our people are disenfranchised with politicians.
100%.
Politicians were not supposed to be fake. Politicians were supposed to be the doctors, the lawyers. That's why if you look at Congress or the Senate, they get months off. Why? Because really, when our system was created, which was all, of course, created against people of color, but you weren't supposed to just be a full-time senator. No, you're supposed to be the storekeeper. You're supposed to be the dentist, the doctor. You're supposed to be the blue-collar person. Then you're representing the community. Now you got to be a rich millionaire to even think about running for office. And that's what made me want to do it. It's like I can't keep protesting, but sure, I may not be able to raise $1 million, but I got a good ground game. And if I could be 16 rolling around with a red can of spray paint walls with a pistol, I could definitely put up some yard signs. I could get a team together. If I could do Heal the Hood or the Camo movement, we just said, shoot, let's see if I run for mayor, because even if I lose, at least we bringing up these issues. We need more public social housing and not the abandoned racist kind that happened in New York City or happened in Chicago. No, we need newer built, retrofitted public housing. No, people can't even afford affordable housing. African Americans were getting displaced. We need a public banking system to add democratized banking for people who can't get bank accounts. If Russell Simmons, if he could sell a Rush card, the city of Denver could do a public banking system. Shout out to Run DMC, right? Like, but if he could do it, the city of Denver could do it. That's tens of millions of dollars. So that was my reasoning. Even if I lose, we bringing up these issues, and it's looking like there's a chance that I could win. because it's not just about me running to lose just to bring up issues. We're running for me to win. But if I don't win, all right, well, we got plenty of politicians now publicly stealing my platform, which is like, all right, if I can't win, make sure you do it, or don't be surprised if I still got that bullhorn. It's still sitting in my room.
Yeah. And I like speaking things into existence. So again, when you do win, you said your first thing you want to do is to declare housing, a human right and an emergency. Now that sounds great, but how do you go about accomplishing that and convincing people who already got their housing? So you got people that's straight. They ain't got to worry about that. Them the people you have to get on board that housing is a human right and every human being should have the right to have a roof over their head. How does Terrance go about making that happen?
So it's not resonating with everybody. Let's just be honest. There are a lot of people who, even African Americans, every black person's not poor. There's a lot of upper middle class and rich black people too. They don't even want to hear that.
Yeah, them the people I'm talking about. You got to get them to see.
It's not everybody. And that could cost me my campaign too. But for the people, that's politicking. Because there's also a big base of people, and a lot of them are housed. They're like, nah, this is making sense because that could be me. We need rent controls. So you cannot implement rent controls just anywhere. It has to be implemented at a federal, then at a state level. So the governor has to implement rent controls. Then I can do that at a municipal level as mayor. We can opt in each mayor in each county, which I've already said, as soon as the governor at a state law puts it in the law, I'm going to do it. Not everybody's happy about that. There's landlords. They said rent control did not work in New York. My answer is, have you been to the Bronx? You been to Fordham Road lately? That's totally different from Colorado Boulevard. And plus, who determines if rent control worked or not?
Right.
It didn't work for who? That's a relative term. You know what I'm saying? So I'm solid on my platform. It's definitely losing me some votes. They're calling me far left. I don't, you call me whatever you want. Call me pink, in the middle, purple. I don't care what you call me. Denver now has less than 10% African Americans. We have about 8,000 homeless people, and almost half of those homeless people are black people. Then Latinos. Denver's 50% white. But yet, white people don't make up the bulk of our homelessness per capita the way African Americans and Latinos do. So my thing is, if you don't like it, my platform, vote for somebody else. But I'm not going to compromise my platform and not be able to come sit with you, Edie, or sit with Nam and the Llama Squad, or sit here with integrity to my people and say I sold my people out just to try to get a few votes, because those people probably wasn't going to vote for me anyways. Then I'm a man with no country. The community don't want me because I tried to sell out to be mayor, and career politicians and people who really want to sell out black men, they know they don't want me around them. So now I'm sticking strong to my platform. We need these things for our people. We need to use our public safety dollars, because if you don't pay your taxes, they'll come arrest you. I don't care if you're a Crip, Blood, ex-Crip, rapper, you paying for it already. It's the mayor's job to present a budget with those taxes that represents your community. That's why everybody wants their own person in office. Italians, Irish people, Puerto Ricans, black people, unless you're a politician or somebody in politics who can show that I'm representing all demographics. By nature, people want someone who looks like them, because the mayor sets the budget. And not only is it budgeted, but a budget that has already taxes from sales tax, bringing a public banking system, making Denver a 24-hour city will bring tens of more millions of dollars into our infrastructure. And I'm not hearing other candidates say, let's make Denver a 24-hour city. Denver's a growing city. Denver wants to be like Atlanta. Denver has always wanted to be like LA. Denver wants to be like every other big city, but you can't even go to a nightclub past a certain time. They shut it down. It's a bunch of homicides. I'm like, no, let's make it a 24-hour city. Let's bring the hip hop industry here. Let's bring the film industry to Denver. That's creating jobs. That's bringing in arts. I've seen Bloods and Crips make a YouTube page together. Who would have killed each other if it wasn't for this type of artistic expression? The church is art. Hip hop is art. Policing is art. They wear their badges and they blue and they green. They got their pictures of themselves. All that's art. So I'm not hearing other candidates saying what's going to help black people and brown people, which are the most disenfranchised in Denver. And if white people or whoever or black and brown people with money don't like my platform, then don't vote for me. But I'm not kissing ass. I don't scratch backs, bro. Like I'm not looking for endorsements from no organizations, and that's how I'm changing politics. Because I can't say I'm bringing hip hop into politics, but then I'm throwing my people under the bus looking for an endorsement. I don't even want progressive organizations endorsing me. I fill out their candidate packets to do my work because it's a lot. You got to fill out these questionnaires. Some of them take 5-6 hours. They asking all kind of questions that take long answers. Your plan for housing, this stuff I had to research. I didn't even had heard of it. As far as begging for endorsements, nah. I need you to vote for me. You might not even like your union. I'm for unions, but of course the union. The problem with unions is they support fake racist sellout politicians who are either not for people of color or people of color who are sellouts. But I support unions because of the workers that are in the union. Union bosses are the problem. I'm not looking for no union endorsements. I'm not looking for nothing. I need people to vote for me because that's changing politics. Anything else is just, you fake already. And I already told people, once I start faking like that, that's when you know you don't support me. And it's working for me, bro. So there's a chance I could get in a runoff April 4th and be the next mayor of Denver because it didn't be me and only another person. It'd be 2 of us. Nobody who's on that right now is 16 of us that are on the ballot. I don't think anybody who's on that ballot with me wants to see me one-on-one. My platform's solid. My work is solid. My integrity's there. I'm not ashamed to, okay, I hit Hassan with the knife. Okay, whatever. I shot somebody. Okay, right. I got a baby's mama or 2. Whatever. Bring it all up. I'm not ashamed.
I think it makes you more relatable.
I'm just a human,
you know what I mean?
Man.
Because the people that's going to vote for Terrance Roberts are human beings that are flawed. We all have flaws and we've all made mistakes. All of us gonna fall short of the glory if that's the measuring stick. The
problem with politicians with flaws is this: trying to hide it, dancing around it. Idi Amin asking you a question and you don't want to answer the question.
But I think it's time for politicians a new type of politician.
Yeah.
And I think, you look at Dave Chappelle's special, and not even his special, his monologue for Saturday Night Live. He talks about Trump and why Trump became so popular and relatable is because he told you what no other politicians told you, whether you liked it or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't really care if you liked him or not.
You ain't supposed to like him.
This is who I am. And he's so used to being who he is,
yeah.
He don't give a fuck. You know, like he gonna tell you, like, look, this is what I do. Yeah. I don't pay my taxes because I know the tax code and I know how to not pay taxes. And everybody sat around and said, damn, nobody ever said that before.
Yep.
He was the first politician.
So I got some of that
all
going
the politicians did that before him.
Yeah.
He was just the first to say it.
Now I got some of that going for me. And guess what? He lost his second, but he won too.
Yeah.
So Barack
and
Obama
I'm not bigging up
Trump.
I'm not bigging up Trump, but it's very different from, you brought up Barack. It's very different from that type of politician who's squeaky clean. You know what I mean? And you don't find no dirt on him. You can't find nothing on him. Like his nails.
You better not get too close to no dirt on Barack, boy. Yeah, somebody coming. Them Chicago boys might be coming.
No, look, my mama be coming because she was the biggest. She was the biggest Barack fan.
Nah, man. I mean? But no, I'm gonna be honest, bro. I'm trying to be a little bit of Barack, a little bit of Tupac, a little bit of Malcolm X, a little bit of MLK.
Yeah.
A little bit of Jesus, a little bit of all that, man. If I could incorporate a little bit of my dad, my mom.
Rest in peace.
I'm my own person, man. But if I could, man, people ain't even making money off their music no more. And went from hip hop really taking us, crack cocaine literally was feeding families back then. It was a source of income. Yeah. Because of systemic racism, then you just expect us to not have no money? Mm-hmm. Then you dump the dope on us. You literally help Man, Rick Ross told me, I had him in my car one day when we brought him to Denver. He said, Terrance, if they didn't give me all that dope, he said it probably would have been 50 gangs that came out of Los Angeles. He said that to me. He was like, it could have been the Dragons and the whatever. But man, once you get a Hoover's all that dope,
Yeah.
once the Compton Pyrus, once the 60s got all that dope and that's wealth. But what else is there? Man, LA's a beautiful place. Once you go to South Central, there ain't a lot of factory jobs. Ain't no big factories. There ain't no GMC truck factory in the South Central. And you definitely don't want to go to the East Side. Man, it's bad. So I think that the next step for hip hop, brother, they done already made it to where you can't make money off the music. You upload your stuff on DistroKid. That's what, $19 a year. I'm not buying your music. Well, I'm on. It's free on Apple Tunes. I got an Apple Tunes subscription for $5. It's on YouTube already. You put it on YouTube yourself. I'm not buying your CD. You just put it on YouTube. There's no money. People in music are transitioning into television, podcasting, TV. It's always been about TV. LL Cool J him and Ice-T learned this years ago. It doesn't get no more iconic than Ice-T on the West Coast or LL Cool J. They learned 20-some years ago, bruh, I'm gonna do some music I'm gonna do my old music. But I'm really on this TV show getting a check. The next transition for those in hip hop who's not doing music, but you from that culture, we got to get control of these budgets, man. We can't just keep telling the stories and rapping about the culture. We got to put some resources into the culture, and we can't keep protesting politicians. Nah, bro, get in the office, lose the race, bring up you might win. You don't know unless you in the. Get your signatures.
Shout out to Do It All from Lords of the Underground, man, who won his election. You know what I mean? In New Jersey.
Yeah,
you know
Malcolm Penn. Is that his brother's name? Malcolm Penn is his last name. Malcolm in New York City. He's running for office in New York, brother. He's on Staten Island. I mean, it's brothers who he run with Method Man, Red Man, that whole. He's from the NY, and to see brothers like him, he was just at a screening that we had in New York City at Cinema Village for the Holly. You know what I mean? That's, to me, is the next necessary step to hip hop. Now, imagine if Barack Obama, and shout out to Barack, but had a little bit more of that. It probably wouldn't have got him in the office. But I think he set the stage for the next Barack to have that in their background. And it's okay, man.
He might have not had it in him, but he knew who to call.
Now
like Jay-Z.
He got more in it. He got
people
more
like
in it
Jay-Z
than he
helped him get in the office.
You see, they was dissing him, saying he walked like a black man. I said, yeah, that's that hip hop in him right there. He walks like a black man with his cream colored suit.
Yeah.
But nah, man, I look up to Barack, man. I wish I could have that energy, and I know I'm not Barack, and he's way more poised than me. But I aspire to be like brothers like that, though, man. I wish I could be more like a brother like that, man. But my history is my history, and my energy is my energy.
Way, man. I think you're well on your way, man. Your journey is an amazing one, man. And I feel pretty confident and good that I'm sitting across from the next man.
Come on, man. I'm sitting with Idi Amin.
Colorado, man.
I just took a picture with Vlad. I got the drum sets behind me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And no matter what happens, brother,
yeah, keep up the good fight.
And I got to shout this out, though, because I said you about to shut it down in a minute. So, we got the game show coming. My man, Nam, the ledge. So I want to shout it out because Nam actually hooked me up with you.
Shout out
to
Nam,
what I'm saying? Nam sitting over here. He off camera. Nam
got at me about you a couple years ago. You know what I mean? Full disclosure, a couple years ago. And I didn't think Vlad was ready for it at the time, man.
Yeah.
But when I watched that documentary, I said, oh no, this story has to be exposed more. They people have to see this, especially the people that watch Vlad TV.
Man, you don't know how many people be like, I'm about to do Vlad TV. And I'll be like, shut up, fool. I know. I'm going to just make this statement.
And Vlad don't let everybody on his platform.
Man. I'm gonna tell you
that
something.
guy that's just looking, for the views and the numbers, even though he do numbers. You know what I'm saying? It's more about the content and the quality of the content, and so this fit perfect.
Let me tell you something, man. So for the book, we've had PR people for when the book dropped. Professional PR people paid from FSG Publishing. They're like, who should we talk to? I'm like, give me on Vlad. All right, we'll work on Vlad. I'm like, find somebody. Damn, somebody knows Vlad. PR people for the documentary. We done had 3, 4, 5 PR people. Every PR person, talk, Terrance, who you? Yo, give me the Vlad. We'll work on Vlad. Someone knows Vlad. I called Nam. Hey, what's up, Nam? What's up, bro? What you need? Man, do you know somebody who knows Vlad, bro? I'm trying to get on Vlad. Oh yeah, don't even trip, man. I'm gonna hit Idi Amin up. You know what I mean? That's my guy. So shout out to Vlad, man, for having me on this program.
Absolutely, shout out to Vlad for making this happen. And everybody listening, don't be hitting me up thinking you finna get on Vlad. It don't work like that.
Hey, another thing I tell people too is you ain't getting on Vlad unless somebody done did at least 10 years in prison. How many bodies? I can see Vlad now. How many bodies, Edie? 1 or 2. 1 body.
That's it.
We need about, okay. How many millions of dollars? Well, no millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So you can't say millions, ain't no bodies, ain't no prison time. What you talking about? It's sad that that's the journey we got to take, but hey, man, I mean, there's been some much heavier hitters than have sat in the seat before me. I'm blessed to even be sitting here. I'm not only am I lucky to be alive.
Some heavy hitters sitting in that seat.
It has.
But I'll put your story and your journey right up there with all of them, man.
Right, with Denver,
you know what I mean? So
shout out to Denver, man.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't like me, she'll get your music, your documentaries ready, and thank me for it. Thank Nam for the Llama Squad. And thank Idi Amin, because Denver, we on the map. We here.
And thank you, man. Terrance Roberts, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, right on. Thank you.
All right.